Kunlun representative, remaining calm, pointed out an indisputable fact.
Live from New York!
SNL was the biggest show ever.
Their agency's attack on a clan member automatically made
Well,
Kunlun
the
a
time
direct
has come, my
participant
brother
in
in
this
arms, to
confrontation.
take back the night
teacher's
from the
mistrust
scourge.
quickly dissipated under the weight of
Well
irrefutable
done,
evidence.
adventurer. It
The
should
man
take
calmly
Alchemist
recalled the
Arvington no
recent
time at
confession
all
of
to
their own
analyze this
mercenaries.
and devise a
Realizing the
counteragent to
hopelessness of
introduce
the
into
situation
cauldron.
and the deadlock
If we
in
are
the
able to pump
negotiations,
out enough
the
of it
teacher
into the
proposed
air,
a prudent
we might be
solution
able to
to
weaken
end
all the
today's
scourge
meeting
present
and
here.
postpone the
This
discussion
will no
for
doubt
another
be
day.
an ongoing
However,
ordeal.
a member of the
We will
sect
need
put
to
forward a more
continually
radical
hit these
proposal.
cauldrons and
Since verbal
introduce our
negotiations have
reagents
reached a
into their
dead
midst.
end, the conflict should be
if we can
resolved
keep
in
it
the
up,
ancient way
we
of
will have a
warriors,
huge
through
advantage
a
over
fair
Scourge
duel.
when the time
His
comes
logic
for
was
battle.
simple and undeniable.
One of the
Only the
plague
direct
cauldrons
participants
is
in the
located in
conflict
the field
had the
of a
right to
former
resolve the
farmhouse
differences
now
that arose
referred to
between
as
them in a fair
Dolphin
fight.
Tears.
The choice of
Well, we
participants
shall
in the
shed
duel
no
was
tears this
predetermined.
day as we thwart the
Huang
scourge
Xiong
and have
had to
them
cross
choke on their
arms
own
with Cheng
fumes.
Guan, whose
Go to
interests were
Dolphin
directly
Tears,
affected by
almost
the
due
actions
north
of
of
the Trade
Andor Hall,
Association.
and eliminate
Huang
the cauldron
Xiong,
lord
wanting
there.
to make
It
sure
should
of the
have a key like
seriousness
the
of
last
their
one did,
intentions,
allowing you
demanded
into the
confirmation.
cauldron. Use this
Who's
bottle
coming in
to
the
obtain a
doorway?
sample from inside the cauldron. Each cauldron has its own distinct brew of toxins.
My priests are reporting that our beacon trackers are picking up
information. Do they really propose to solve everything with a duel between him and the Pearl Dragon? The man firmly confirmed, referring to the unshakable rules of the sect. For opponents, this proposal seemed unusually profitable, and they saw no point in delaying the decision. The teacher only made Huang Xiong promise to save Zhongguan's life, leaving everything else to his discretion. With a confident smile and an unshakable belief in his own superiority, Huang Xiong accepted the challenge, anticipating an easy victory. In preparation for the fight, Huang Xiong hatched cruel plans to make Zhongguan bitterly regret his birthday. Meanwhile, Zhongguan himself showed only a calm interest in the abilities of the outer member of the Kantok clan. The fight began with a swift attack from Huang Xiong, but Zhongguan showed amazing skill, easily dodging every blow with apparent indifference to his opponent's attempts. Quickly assessing the enemy's technique, Zhongguan came to a disappointing conclusion for his opponent. To defeat such a weak opponent, a simple blow with a fist is enough, without even resorting to a weapon. Only a desperate cry from the teacher, begging him to stop the fight, put an end to this unequal fight, demonstrating the huge difference in the skills of the fighters. He then tried to disgrace Zhongguan by declaring that nobody could not be inhumane. But Zhongguan calmly replied that if he were not like that, he could hardly be considered a real man. After this, a senior member of the sect intervened, who took Zhongguan aside, making it clear that the outcome of the duel was obvious, and offered to end the negotiation. But the teacher understood that he could not allow this. He had to gain at least some benefit from the situation, so he refused to complete the matter after what was done to his students. The sect representative reminded him that the battle was fair and ordered him to leave. But the teacher refused to leave after a student of their clan was injured. This outraged the man, who considered what happened to be the fair consequences of a fight between the direct participants in the conflict. Calmly watching the argument, Zhongguan wondered if instead of training the body in the Kanton sect, they train only stubbornness, because otherwise he could not understand the reason for such stubbornness of people from one of the 9 greatest sects. After these words, the man lost his temper, and turning to the elder, tried to understand what Zhongguan was taught, since he was so impudent. But the man calmly explained that Zhongguan's youth did not detract from his skill, and admitted that he was also his student. The teacher really didn't like the fact that they were putting some young man on a pedestal, but the representative of the sect knew. If you just challenge Zhongguan, everyone will understand the truth of his words. Tension hung in the air when the representative of the sect made a decisive proposal to resolve the heated conflict with a final duel between him and the legendary Zhongguan, whose reputation had already made so much noise. A satisfied smile lit up the man's face. Events developed exactly according to his carefully thought-out plan. To add special solemnity, one side swore in the name of Kunlun, the
Welcome
other
to
in
the
the name
front
of
lines,
Huang Xiong,
adventurer. The
that
kingdom of
this fight would be the
Stormwind,
last
with the
point
aid
in
of
their
its allies,
confrontation.
has sent me here to
Sincere
counter
joy
the
was
growing
reflected
threat
on
of the
Zhongguan's
scourge.
face.
Here at
The
Chillwind
first
Point,
fight
we
left a
fight for
feeling
our
of
continued
dissatisfaction in
survival
his
on
soul,
a daily basis.
like an
If you
unsung
come here
song.
looking for a chance to
Now
prove
before him
yourself
stood
as
a
a hero,
worthy opponent,
then you'll find
capable of
plenty
giving real
opportunities
pleasure
to
in
do so.
battle. Taking a
Especially
classic
as we
fighting
push
stance,
towards
the young
Andor,
warrior with
whatever
daring
malign
confidence
force
invited
that
the enemy to
controls the
strike the
scourge
first
there.
blow.
for
Such
priests are
arrogance seemed
reporting that
unheard
our
of
beacon
insolence to the
trackers
master
are
of the
picking up
Kanton
extremely
clan,
strong
who would
signals
dare
on
to be
all
so
four
careless
towers.
about his
Dare I say
experience
it,
and
I
status.
believe you've executed
Seeing the
another
clan
mission
master
with
draw his deadly
complete and
sword,
total
the hero
success.
deliberately remained unarmed,
Well played once
calmly
again,
explaining his
adventurer,
decision.
with the tower's
He
mark
prefers to
of
rely
preparation
only on the
to
strength of
success.
his hands when the situation
Time
allows
has come
such
to take
luxury.
the fight to
The young
victory.
opponent's self-confidence seemed to the master a manifestation of unforgivable pride, so he decided to teach a lesson in modesty, generously allowing the young man to strike the first blow.
Let me respawn in Rome, please. Yes.
Not knowing what surprise awaited him. The next moment, the incredible happened. Before the master could blink, his opponent materialized dangerously close, like a ghost. The man managed to avoid the first two lightning attacks only by a miracle, thanks to many years of experience. The terrifying power of the third attack left Master Kanton no choice but to resort to the protection of his trusty katana. The blow was so strong that it made him doubt the humanity of his opponent. Deep down, the master was confident in his superiority. It seemed inconceivable that anyone could withstand a series of his well-honed blows, using only his bare hands. This confidence was soon to turn into bitter disappointment. Having completed his impressive series of blows, the master realized with horror that he was fighting with a masterful illusion. The real enemy had long since taken up a position behind him. The next moment shocked him even more. Zhongguan cut his katana with his bare hands, leaving the renowned master without a weapon. A satisfied...
Hello, my name is Kevin Rogers. I'm one of the sock designers here at Grip 6, and I'm going to give you 10 reasons why purchasing a pair of Grip 6 socks will be one of the best decisions you'll ever make. Stick around to the end of the video for a discount code.
Smile lit up Zhongguan's face. His premonition was fully justified. The battle really promised to be an exciting challenge. The master, observing this unnatural lightness, plunged deeper and deeper into the abyss of anxiety and bewilderment. With a slight mockery in his voice, the hero asked his opponent to remain conscious, expressing a desire to prolong the pleasure of the fight. These words plunged the master into panic. He feverishly tried to understand the true intentions of the mysterious Pearl Dragon. Genuine surprise was reflected on Yongguan's young face when he realized that his words had been misinterpreted. Thoughts of killing his opponent had not even entered his mind, turning the situation into an amusing misunderstanding. This revelation completely pulled the rug out from under the experienced master. The realization that the young man was able to bring him to such a state, even without having murderous intentions, seemed especially humiliating. A frightening parallel with the legendary heavenly demon involuntarily arose in the man's mind, although he himself could not explain why the ancient legend surfaced in his memory at the sight of this terrifying young warrior, whose skills seemed to surpass human capabilities. Gathering all his determination, the sect master made a firm decision to demonstrate the full power of his art, honed through decades of hard training. He convinced himself that the fear of his young opponent was unworthy of his status and experience. Zhongguan, maintaining amazing calm, stood motionless and carefully watched the enemy's preparations. His eyes sparkled with sincere interest. He longed to see the entire arsenal of techniques of the famous master. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide of the battle, the master decided to use his most powerful technique, the legendary Sun in the Palm, capable of plunging the enemy's world into impenetrable darkness, depriving him of any hope of victory. Despite the technique's formidable reputation, Zhongguan dispelled its effect with amazing ease. He then began to demonstrate true skill by dodging attacks with the legendary 8 steps of the Great Celestial Dragon technique, leaving his opponent completely confused. The amazed clanmates froze in awe, unable to believe their eyes. Their younger brother had achieved such an incredible level of skill, surpassing all their wildest expectations and ideas about what was possible. Fury overwhelmed Master Kanton, and he decided to use his most devastating technique, the legendary 102 strikes with the sword that cuts through the heavenly demons. The air filled with a hum of energy as the deadly attack rushed towards the enemy. Watching the approaching attack, Zhongguan couldn't help but grin condescendingly. The name Demon Cleaver seemed absurd to him. Even the last novice of a demonic cult would not bow to such a pathetic technique. Drawing his sword with majestic grace, Hero decided to teach his enemy a lesson in true skill. He intended to prove that only he could tame the demon, and to forever erase the pretentious Demon Cleaver from the name of the arrogant opponent's technique. With one lightning-fast movement, Filled with perfect precision, he completely cut through the enemy's attack, instilling genuine terror in him. With a trembling voice, the man tried to remind the guy of his promise to use only his hands. Approaching his opponent with implacable confidence, Zhongguan calmly explained the subtlety of his promise. He pledged to draw his sword only when absolutely necessary, after which he intended to return to hand-to-hand combat. A crushing blow struck the man, and when consciousness returned to him, he accepted his defeat with dignity. However, even at the moment of a humiliating loss, he remembered the honor of the sect, emphasizing that his personal failure should not cast a shadow on the reputation of the entire clan. With a barely noticeable smile, concealing many meanings, the representative of the Kunlun sect turned to the defeated enemy, giving him the opportunity to express what could ease his position in such a delicate situation. Having accepted defeat and suppressed the remnants of
I'm done spending an obscene amount of money on takeout. Done.
Getting back on track with Factor.
Fresh, never frozen meals at Parent Chefs.
This saves us so much time when we're chasing around our toddler.
I can get all the nutrition I need without having to obsess over it. I never run out of
pride, the defeated warrior solemnly announced that from now on, neither Kantan nor the Jew family would interfere in their affairs, recognizing the superiority of the winner. The triumphant moment was marked by general rejoicing. Members of the sect and trade guilds surrounded the winner in a tight ring, enthusiastically glorifying the legendary Pearl Dragon, whose skill exceeded all expectations. Away from the general fun, immersed in deep thoughts, stood the silent Seong Mu. At that moment, he made a sacred vow to himself. One day, he would reach the same heights and become an equally outstanding person. When the evening shadows enveloped the earth, Seong Mu went to his father, who was completely immersed in the efforts of preparing for the Taoists' departure tomorrow, carefully checking every detail of the upcoming journey. Showing persistence, the guy achieved an important conversation with his father and resolutely declared his desire to join the Kunlun clan. His voice trembled with emotion as he asked his father's blessing for this serious step. After listening to his son, the man remained amazingly calm, patiently explaining the well-known...
Alright, motherfucker.
Anticipating this answer,
Got a fucking rare over here I'm about to kill. Just smack his bitch ass.
noting the obvious. His son had not yet discussed his decision with the mother. This was not surprising. If she had found out about such plans, the young man would have had to look for a stone on his neck, fleeing his mother's wrath. Tang Yuji was amazed at how quickly he understood the strategic importance of development in preventing conflicts from escalating into full-scale war. Zhongguan also praised the Sichuan Tang clan's Poison Phoenix for skillfully reducing the cost of producing the poison. The complex mixture was created from relatively inexpensive ingredients. In a conversation with his son, the father revealed an amazing truth. The young man knew only a small part about Zhongguan, and even this impressive victory did not show the full depth of his strength.
Nobody believed me at first, but now everyone wants one. My friends roasted me for getting scammed.
Xiongmu could not believe that the warrior who had long sold to his bare hands was hiding even greater power. With pride, Bayek Jinguan shared the story of the events of several years ago. While laying out the western route, their caravan was attacked by the notorious Bloody Sandstorm. It was Zhongguan, using only his bare hands, who saved them all from certain death. With fatherly wisdom and care, he asked his son the main question. Is Xiongmu ready to make the same sacrifices in all trials in order to achieve such a level of skill? After the story of the Pearl Dragon, the guy lost confidence that he could become the same, but still wanted to get closer to his ideal. Hearing his son's doubts, Baek Jinguan calmed down, realizing that this was the path his child had chosen. He warned that when obstacles arise, the decision to do the right thing will rest on his shoulders. Seongmu joyfully promised to follow his father's instructions, although he understood that the boy did not even realize the gravity of this instruction. The only thing that worried Seongmu was the fate of the trade association that joined the sect. The man explained that this was not a problem. They could disband the association when they had achieved all their goals, and then he and his mother could live in peace, spending the accumulated fortune. But he reminded that the son needs to get permission from his mother. The next day, Bayek Jinguan said goodbye to Ihak, thanking him for everything and promising to never forget their kindness. He only calmly replied that they did what they thought was right. Before leaving, Bayek Jinguan asked Ihak to stay behind and explained that his son wanted to join Kunlun. The man reminded that they do not accept external members, to which Bayek Jinhuan clarified his son to join officially. Even though I thought Sung Mu was a good guy, he understood the decisive role of talent in this matter. Besides, the timing wasn't right, and accepting a new member would only make their job more difficult. He wanted to refuse, but Baek Jinhuan begged to give his son at least a chance to show.
Listen, if y'all are still making coffee the old way, that's fine with me. But let me tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be repurchasing any more cold brew stuff. I was buying that pre-made cold brew, and I was going through that like nobody's business. But have y'all heard of Jobby? This tiny thing has 35 servings. You put it with some milk or some water, and it's instant coffee. Now, you can use this hot or cold. You don't even have to have one of these fancy doodads. I just like it. It's almond milk to make.
Joe himself. Having received permission, the beaten Xiong Mu entered the room. He introduced himself as the son and second lord of the big trading association, greeting the master of the Kunlun clan. The man immediately noticed his beating, but the guy explained that he could not fight. When he came to his mother to ask permission, she began to beat him, considering her son a traitor to his family and parents. Not wanting to question further, Ihawk simply asked Xiong Mu the reason for his desire to become a disciple. The guy knew that everything would be fine if he quoted his father. Talk about the desire to achieve enlightenment, help those in need, and serve for the greater good. But Ihawk, sensing insincerity, explained that the guy would show more wisdom by giving the true reason instead of hiding it. After a moment of internal struggle, Xiong Mu made a decision that could determine his entire future fate. Realizing that lying would be an unforgivable sin against himself, he decided to be completely sincere. Emotionally but firmly, the young man spoke his truth. He considered the Kunlun clan to be unsurpassed and passionately desired to achieve the same greatness as its illustrious members. There was genuine sincerity in his words. His honesty was rewarded. Soon a ceremony of acceptance into the clan took place, where Xiong Mu was solemnly presented with sacred equipment, symbolizing his new path and belonging to the Great Order. The mother's heart had difficulty accepting her son's choice, but love conquered doubts. She gently asked him to be careful, and in case of difficulties to seek help from their savior, the legendary Pearl Dragon. Seong Mu was still in a state of slight bewilderment. It seemed incredible that he was accepted into the illustrious clan, after such, as it seemed to him, a simple-minded and uncomplicated recognition of his motives. Chongguan's older brother, having already heard from the elders about the unusual confession of the newcomer, approached the guy. They were amused by his straightforwardness and honest admission that he joined the clan because of their coolness and strength. With genuine enthusiasm, Chongguan approached his new little brother, his eyes shining with anticipation of their future cooperation and common achievements on their chosen path. Suddenly realizing the excessive formality of his first greeting, Chongguan warmly invited him to talk to his big brother, offering to work together honorably for the good of the clan and the whole world. Baek Jinhuan gathered his men for the important announcement of the departure of the Taoists, gave the order to open the massive gates, preparing for a ceremonial farewell to the honored guests. But fate prepared a new twist. When the heavy gates began to move apart, the head of Qinghai himself appeared before the audience, accompanied by an impressive procession of rich gifts. In a fit of sincere feelings, the head tried to embrace Chongguan in his arms, calling him his beloved nephew and expressing great joy at the meeting. However, the young man, with his characteristic calm, recalled that their separation lasted only 2.5 years. This scene caused sincere surprise in Bayek Jinhuan. He, like many others, knew that the boy was an orphan. Such a high-ranking relative seemed inexplicable. During a warm conversation, Chongguan inquired about the health of the head's wife, and wonderful news emerged. Thanks to the intervention of the young hero, she completely recovered and could now walk freely. Long-standing rumors about the seriously ill wife of the head of Qinghai and their desperate pleas for help at the top of Kunlun surfaced in the memories of those present. Now it became obvious that it was the Pearl Dragon who performed this miraculous healing. The penetrating gaze of the head of Qinghai caught a barely noticeable tension. The rest of the Taoists did not seem to share his delight at the unexpected meeting. Their restraint did not escape his attentive eyes. At this moment, Ihawk approached, greeting the distinguished guest with due respect. However, there was a note of dissatisfaction in his voice when he reminded him of the importance of self-respect, because the journey from Xinying was not short. With diplomatic courtesy, the true purpose of his visit.
That's a lot of parrying hit.
The Taoists for saving his wife was only part of a larger official matter requiring their attention. With undisguised pride, he listed Zhongguan's great deeds. The miraculous greening of the valley, the heroic victory over the Yellow River pirates, and rescue assistance after a devastating avalanche at the foot of the mountain. As a sign of deep gratitude, the residents presented the hero with a luxurious new uniform, skillfully embroidered with gold, a gift worthy of his outstanding services to the people. The rest of the order members also received new robes, noting with amazement their extraordinary lightness. It seemed that these exquisite clothes weighed nothing at all. In addition to the generous gifts, the head of Qinghai solemnly presented the hero with a special bag filled with valuable money scrolls from the local treasury. The observant head immediately noticed the confusion in Chongguan's eyes. The young hero clearly encountered such scrolls for the first time, not understanding their true value. This ignorance was explained simply. In a past life, all his needs were completely provided by others, and his current existence was distinguished by commendable modesty and unpretentiousness. To the slight irritation of the head, the young man innocently suggested that one bag of scrolls seemed an insufficient gift, clearly not realizing the enormous value of the gift given to him. With dignity, the head recalled his status as the ruler of an entire province and his impressive fortune, emphasizing the significance of his position. However, he saved the main treasure for last. In gratitude for the healing of his wife, he decided to present something much more valuable than all the money scrolls. At the moment of removing the ring, confidence left him. He honestly admitted that his hands trembled at the thought of parting with this precious relic. Handing over the ring, the head revealed its true value. Any bank would offer an amount 10 to 20 times higher than the cost of all previous gifts for this ring. Joy lit up the hero's face. Now, freed from financial worries, he could freely act in the central plain, following his plans and desires. A sad smile touched the ruler's lips when he admitted that such generosity would force him to save in the coming days, temporarily limiting expenses. He shared his anxiety. The time for personnel renewal was approaching, and the main headquarters persistently demanded his return to the central administration, which he tried with all his might to avoid. The main reason for his reluctance to leave the province was concern for his wife's poor health. He feared that in his absence, she could become easy prey for all sorts of scammers and deceivers. The irony of the situation was that while others were spending huge sums trying to get into the central administration, he was trying his best to avoid this appointment. This interested Yongguan. The situation was complicated by the fact that the ambitious head of Gansu also applied for this position, despite his very modest and unconvincing track record. The main task of Gansu province was to contain Mongol attacks. Each battle became a serious test for local troops. A clear plan formed in Chongguan's head when he realized
I call this like my energy in a bottle. It's so good for you. I've been told by multiple people that I should be eating organ meat to help kind of fill those nutritional gaps because it's the most nutrient-dense food you can possibly have. Someone told me about Paleo Valley.
the essence of the problem. The head lacked military power, and if he could strengthen the position of the head of Gansu province, this would automatically free him from an unwanted appointment. He came up with a brilliant idea. If Gansu province was suffering from a lack of military strength, he simply needed to find a way to compensate for this lack by strengthening their fighting power. In an unexpected show of mercy, he released the captured bandits, explaining to them that they would have new jobs and the opportunity to redeem themselves by accompanying him on an important mission. With the practicality of a seasoned strategist, he decided to turn this useless trash into something useful, giving them a chance at redemption and a new life. The head of Qinghai expressed his sincere gratitude to Ihawk for his assistance, and he, in turn, expressed satisfaction with the opportunity to rehabilitate the criminals. The touching moment of farewell came. Baek Jinhuan warmly said goodbye to his son, and the head of Qinghai once again thanked Chongguan, solemnly
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story with a professional website that reflects
promising full support from government agencies. After all the farewell ceremonies, the group finally reached the 7th district, where the well-fortified base of the infamous Snake Clan was located. Despite the attendants' persistent warnings about the cruelty of the locals and calls for caution, Zhongguan showed his characteristic daring style. With one powerful kick, he knocked down the massive gate, showing complete disregard for danger. After just a couple of minutes, those who came saw the hero, and around him they found the ground strewn with corpses. The Snake Clan, the Iron Sect, the Organization of Dark Souls, and the Right Blood class. The 4 great clans of Xinyin, adherents of the orthodox trend, were destroyed in one morning. After what he saw, Xiangmu became very worried about Zhongguan. He understood the correctness of exterminating the criminals, but was afraid that rumors of the fall of the four great clans would attract people from other factions to Xinying. They will take control of free territories, and their struggle for power will bring even more misfortune to the civilian population. Zhongguan explained to his new little brother that the weeds grow at a breakneck speed if they are not pulled out. Xiangmu believed that it was necessary to gradually eradicate these people, not understanding whether their spread really could not be stopped. Zhongguan calmly explained that there is no need to dig up such weeds. It is enough to stop their spontaneous growth. He gathered the surviving defeated bandits for an educational conversation. After an impressive conversation, they promised to take only a fifth of the previous taxes from residents, stop anyone who invades Xinying, and punish slave traders and traffickers of illegal substances. The hero announced that he was leaving 10 people to defend the territory, warning of cruel reprisals for disobedience. Xiangmu understood the wisdom of the decision. Leave enough men for defense, but not enough for the uprising. However, he could not believe that a person from a noble clan was capable of such a thing. Heo Chung approached and noticed that Chungguan's methods seemed too cruel to Xiangmu, assured that his actions never harmed ordinary people. Heo Yung spoke about the lesson their clan learned from the battle against the demonic cult. Bad people don't choose their meals, and sometimes you have to put up with it. Seongmu was worried about the reputation of the Great Fair faction sect, but Heo Jong explained that they were not fighting for glory. When you think too much about glory, the weak suffer. After his instruction, he asked the boy to remember his words, which could be useful to him in the future. As the clan headed to Gansu province, about 500 people followed them. Representatives of unorthodox factions, mountain bandits, and pirates. Chongguan understood their weakness in front of the Mongols, even doubting their suitability as a human shield. He asked his younger brother about stronger enemy bandits. He spoke about an elite gang, one of 72 forest bandit groups, led by a famous warrior. Chongguan decided to go to his uncle and his association with new goals. Xiongmu did not understand whether the hero was really going to confront all 72 gangs, but he seemed only pleased with the news of as many of them as possible. At the same time, the head of the elite gang, Wang Wook, was scolding his assistant for the meager loot. Only a couple of robbed merchants over many days. He explained that the pot trading association had changed its route. An angry Wang Wook ordered everyone to gather to attack the trade union. The worried assistant tried to warn that they were under the protection of the Kunlun clan, but this only angered Huan Wook more. He stated that he should not be compared with idiots, because he is capable of destroying everyone overnight. This seemed like real madness to the assistant. He begged the leader to come to his senses. He fell to his knees, and holding his leg, tried to prevent him from leaving. But Huan Wook became even more angry, and began to prove that he was capable of killing the entire clan alone. Just as he was about to leave, the doors opened on their own, and Yung Guang appeared in front of him. The assistant immediately recognized this guy as a member of the Kunlun clan. Huan Wook was even glad that someone like him came in person. The hero calmly explained that he decided to visit them when he found out the whereabouts of their gang. At this moment, the smug man raised his sword, wanting to immediately behead the guy, thereby proving something to his charges. But when the man thought that he had already hooked the guy, it turned out that it was just a mirage. This scared him because he could still hear the sound of the sword hitting him. When he woke up, he realized that the hero had already cut off his beard. In addition, he noticed that now Huan Wook became more like a man, and no one would have thought that he was fighting a furious bear. In fact, the hero was glad that the man's skills as a swordsman turned out to be quite useful. It seemed great to him to make him the leader of the new group, so he invited the man to go with him. But he considered this too arrogant on the part of the milksucker, and continued to attack. The hero was even amazed that the man, despite all his attempts, still had strength. Huan Wook was angry with the enemy, ordering him to stop dodging his attacks and start fighting more. The hero didn't mind, so he hit the man, throwing him out of the building and breaking the wall with his body. Looking at how he was lying on the ground, the hero was even upset. He hoped that the man would be stronger, but Huan Wook began to argue, disputing his weakness, and then rose to his feet, which even impressed the guy. The hero realized that the man was ready to use the next technique. He would have to fight much harder this time. This made Huan Wook even more angry, and he explained to the guy that no matter how much he hit him with his plush hands, it was completely useless. After this, a new series of attacks began by Zhongguan. He beat the man so much that he could barely move or breathe. But the
Another
hero
finally
himself was
executed
proud of the
mission
man for
adventurer.
being able to
This
withstand
makes
even
3
such
cauldrons
attacks
available to
and
us
still
to turn
remain
against
cautious.
the scourge.
After another
If
attack,
Kel'Thuzad's
when the man was
necromantic
finally
dominance
able
over
to
these
escape
lands
from the
wasn't as
whirlpool,
strong as it currently
he
is,
absolutely
I
did not
dare say you
understand
shut
what
them
kind of
down
special
completely.
opponent was in front of him.
Alchemist Arbington will have a
Realizing
report
that if
on what
this
this
continued,
cauldron,
he
as
would
well as
definitely
the other
die soon.
cauldrons subverted,
The hero praised
will
his
require to
durability
deliver
and
our
suggested that he
counteragent to
use
the
his
prey.
strongest technique
With
to make
that,
the battle
the
more
time
interesting.
has come to bring
At this
the
moment,
last cauldron
it became
of the
obvious
West
to Huan
under
Wook
our
that
influence.
Zhongguan was simply crazy.
The last cauldron
But
that
if he did
remains
not
is
use the
located on a
technique,
farm
his
now
chances
called
of dying would
Garon's
greatly
Withering.
increase. So
It is
he had
guarded
no
by
choice.
some of the Scourge's
He
tougher
apologized to
minions,
his old man for using this
specifically
technique,
wraiths and
explaining
ghosts.
that it was a last
They are not
resort
to be
and
trifled
assumed a
with,
fighting
adventurer.
pose. As soon as the
Garon's
attack was
Withering is
directed
due
towards the
northeast of
hero,
our position
he
here,
immediately
close to
recognized
where
this
the Eastern
technique.
Plague Lands begin.
He didn't understand
Again,
why Huan
eliminate
Wook
the
was
Cauldron
using it
Lord
at all.
present there for its
In his
key.
performance, the
Here is your
technique
empty
looked
sample
ridiculous,
bottle. Bring it
like
to
a
me
parody.
filled. May
But
the
when the
light
black
protect
haze
you in this
completely engulfed his
dangerous
body,
mission,
he
adventurer.
realized that this technique
You have
was
done
no
as I
joke.
asked without question,
It seemed to him
adventurer.
that no sane
Trust
person
is
would use something
achieved,
so dangerous.
seems.
To
Perhaps
fight
I can
back and
reveal
free
our
himself
plan
from
in
this
more
attack,
detail to you now.
the hero released his inner
Now
strength.
we must combine
Huan
the
Wook
inert
definitely
scourge stones
recognized
and
something
create a
demonic
weapon
in this
to
inner
shatter
force,
the ranks of
which is
undead.
why he lost
This is no
consciousness.
trivial task.
He remembered his
adventurer.
teacher,
Only the
who
trolls
asked that
of
the boy
sunken
never use a
temple
new
carry the
technique in
kind
front
of
of
rare
others.
magic able
If anyone
to turn
found
the
out about
evil
it,
of something
his life would
against
be in
itself.
danger.
In the
Therefore,
temple,
the
trolls
teacher
are
asked to
known as
resort to this
Gasher,
technique
Mijan,
only when there was
Zolo,
no other
Huku,
choice.
Zulor,
It
and
was for his
Loro.
own good. When
Do
he
not
woke up,
feel
he
remorse
saw
for
his
their
assistant,
corrupt souls.
but did not
They are not
understand
without
why he
evil.
was in such a state. As it turned out, the hero deliberately stunned him, affecting the necessary points. After which, threateningly approaching Huan Wook, he explained that his subjects would not come to the rescue, because his people had probably already dealt with them. The hero decided to directly ask the man who showed him this technique. He awkwardly explained that it was their family art, but the hero did not believe it. He asked if the man knew that this technique was called Black Death Blade, and in the demonic cult, only the 7 great families owned it, so he could hardly believe that the man came from these families. At this moment, Huan Wook was scared, and judging by his facial expression, the hero realized that he was completely unaware of the origin of the technique. The man explained that he only guessed about her connection with a demonic cult, but did not think that she was so famous. Hearing these words, the hero realized that this guy would clearly be useful, so he demanded to tell him absolutely everything he knew. He soon learned from the conversation that when the man was little, he saved the old man, and in return, he taught him this technique. But the man no longer remembered who this old man was. From his appearance, he could only describe the scars all over his face. So, he apologized to the hero for being useless. The hero, having collected all the facts together, realized that the man met after his death. He wondered if some other family had taken over the dynasty. The Desert Sandstorm bandits were usually under the control of a demonic cult, but then they rebelled and it's obvious they had something going on. The hero decided to observe the situation a little more, because he did not want to get involved with the demonic cult in this life, but promised that if the demonic cult continued to interfere, he would destroy it. After that, he turned his attention to Huan Wook, and realized that he probably needed skills with which he could defend his lands and not lose face. Obviously, he was right, but he explained that he could teach him this, but not for free. In return, Huan Wook would have to suffer a little. Finally, when they
I'm gonna get that flight plan too while I'm at it.
by the provincial governor. He also greeted all the volunteers. Ihawk spoke on behalf of the entire clan, thanking him for the fact that the master decided to greet them personally. As it turned out, the man had received a message from the head of Qinghai in advance, and had been expecting guests for a long time, so he ordered a banquet to be immediately prepared in honor of their arrival. Soon the head happily said that he was well aware of Kanlun's reputation, but he did not think he would
Kanlun.
achieve such success, and reported that the emperor was very pleased with the work done. Aihaku was embarrassed by such praise, but the head considered it nonsense. After all, if not for them, it is unlikely that anyone would have been able to assemble such an army. At this time, Huan Wook was crying. He did not study martial arts for this, and did not imagine that when Chongguan spoke about suffering, he meant war, because the volunteers had to fight the Mongols. After that, everyone began to drink and eat enough to die full when the meeting with the Mongols took place. Those who guarded the gates noticed that these people did not look like preachers at all. They looked more like bandits, but they could hardly do anything about it. At that moment, the drinking men heard the voice of Yongguan, who explained that they can drink as much as they need until they feel better, but should not forget how they are punished for bad behavior. After that, Everyone immediately became much more polite, serving each other food and drinks, which clearly pleased Yongguan. Chief Gansu watched everything. He remembered what the head of Qinghai had said, and advised him to treat Chongguan well and try not to disappoint him. Therefore, the head asked his assistant to bring the young warrior to him, and began to wait for him in the room. As soon as the hero arrived, he introduced him to his younger brother, who was well versed in everything related to market prices. Before the man could say why he called Yongguan, he gave him a book and invited him to look at the notes. It was a book of expense statements, and as soon as the chief opened it, he couldn't believe that they had paid so much for the rope handcuffs, and tried to find out if they could be reused. Seongmu explained that the handcuffs can be reused, but the rope must be tightened properly so that it cannot be cut. In addition, civil compensation was also taken into account. He explained that these were payments to all civilians who suffered from bandits. Although they compensated for damage to property, they could not compensate people for their mental trauma. This was done in order to ease their worries caused by the funeral and funeral service. The hero further explained that they excluded labor costs from the list, because that's what Taoists were supposed to do. Therefore, only payments and donations were counted in the book. Even for this, the head of Hans was already grateful, but he did not understand where such a sum came from. He suspected that they had robbed those bandits after defeating them. But Seongmu calmly explained that this price was a result of other factors, after which he clearly and to the point, with excellent talent, began to put everything on the shelves. The head, after listening to all the explanations, tried to somehow come to an agreement with the Pearl Dragon, but he explained that if they did not need further problems, then they would still have to pay exactly as much as was indicated. By further problems, he meant that although the people were called volunteers, they were in fact bandits, and escape was not a problem for them. Therefore, the head should have simply agreed to this money in order to avoid misunderstandings. It seemed to the head that the one who originally brought them should have been doing this. The hero was not going to listen to him. He only turned around and got ready to go to another province. As a result, the head stopped the guy and promised to pay whatever Chongguan said, if he guaranteed that there would be no trouble with these people. Very soon, the guy gathered all the bandits, pirates, and warriors, suspecting that they were already planning their escape immediately after he left. When no one refuted his assumption, he realized that he was right, but it didn't matter, because the hero warned that if he escaped, he would find and punish everyone. Some of them considered it just chatter. After all, the world is huge, and it is unlikely that he will be able to find absolutely everyone. But the hero announced that from now on, he would call all these people volunteers. Now they were one. He decided to explain what they would be doing. He appointed Guan Wook as the leader of the Volunteer Association, and also named his deputies, the people responsible for strategy, after which he called absolutely everyone by name. The hero could also tell where they come from, but that would take too much time, so he decided to leave it at that. After this dialogue, it became obvious to everyone that if the guy even knows their origin, then it really won't be difficult for him to find them. The hero explained that now that they are all on duty, albeit temporarily, all their actions will be monitored. If they ran away or caused trouble, they would meet him in person. After that, with tears in their eyes, they began to assure the hero that they were worthy of his trust and would not let him down. When the head himself arrived, he was surprised to see such a wonderfully trained army of warriors. Also, handing the documents to the man, he asked to inform the Marima Alliance if any problems arise. He will come right away to solve everything. Finally, when the head paid the bills, they went their separate ways. And the next day, the Kunlun clan left Gansu with a solemn farewell ceremony. 2 days later, they arrived in Shanxi province, and the hero noticed that it was quite beautiful here. He even regretted that he had not been here in his past life. Looking around, Heochik realized that thanks to the gentleman from Hansu, who supplied them with horses, they quickly got there. But Hawk, who was riding a horse for the first time, felt that his body was very tired. Unexpectedly, they saw that they were greeted by the head of the Hua Mountain clan and the Southern clan. These sects had been fighting each other for many years, so it was strange to see them together. The heads of both clans approached Aihaku, greeted him, and offered to drink tea together. When he explained that they had just arrived in Shanxi and wanted to find a place to stay first, they insistently suggested a local hotel. It was owned by the Elite sect, so it was clean and calm. The head of the Southern clan insisted that if they did not stay at the inn, it could ruin their reputation, since it was unlikely that people would think well of them if they simply walked by and did not accept their hospitality. Ihawk felt that something was wrong here. He suspected that their unification was somehow connected with the Murim alliance. They either wanted to strengthen their position by enlisting their support, or to demonstrate their strength. Their intentions were too obvious, but it did not matter. Ihak decided to accept their help, realizing that no matter what happened, he would not allow them to go unpunished. Seongmu and Zhongguan were in their room. Seongmu noticed that the Mount Hua clan and Southern clan disciples were walking around the inn as if they were watching them. He understood that they were probably planning something, and did not understand why the hero was absolutely not worried about this and where he was going all this time. But he, calmly packing his things, explained that since they had arrived in Shangxi, they should have a lot of fun. Finally, he found a spare uniform, and handing it to Seongmu, suggested that he dress up. Seongmu did not understand how the guy could have fun and where he was going in this situation, and again repeated that the clans were watching them. But the hero, smiling calmly, simply suggested that they finally change clothes and move out so that they would not be caught. After that, they finally made their way to the diner. Even though the hero carried the guy all the way, he still felt bad because of how fast they were walking. Finally they arrived, and Seongmu was glad that they had not yet been caught, although he understood that he still needed to be as careful as possible. The head of the diner greeted them. Zhongguan had already heard that Shanxi's most exotic cuisine was here. The chef explained that although their prices could be steep, he could assure guests that they prepared the most delicious food. Then the hero handed the man a money scroll, the amount of which even made his eyes widen. Frightened, Seongmu immediately removed his older brother's hand, explaining that there was too much money here. He decided to take on the financial expenses himself, because if they continue to spend money as madly as Chungguan wants, they will very soon be left penniless. The man led them to the 3rd floor. Since it was still early, there were few customers, which meant they could eat in comfort. When they sat down at the table, the guys began to admire the beautiful views, which even Yunguan liked. But his attentive gaze immediately noticed a guy who was nearby and was looking intently in their direction. Even though he was alone, Zhongguan deduced from his appearance that he probably belonged to an unorthodox sect. Zhongguan was so embarrassed by his gaze that he even wanted to come up and ask him not to look like that again. At this moment, the chef arrived, and Seongmu was about to order some of the best vegetable dishes. But Zhongguan ordered stewed carp, fried chicken, porcini mushroom soup, as well as many other forbidden dishes and alcohol. As soon as the cook left with this order, Seongmu lost his temper, not understanding how the guy could order meat and alcohol so easily. But Zhongguan only asked his friend to speak more quietly, and explained that since they came to Shanxi, they must try the famous local dishes. Therefore, Seongmu could also calmly taste meat and enjoy alcohol, because even if he tried these dishes, there was nothing wrong with that. Seongmu did not understand how Chungguan could do this, and where his upbringing as one of the 4 greats had happened. But the hero only asked him to drive away unnecessary thoughts. Finally, the food and alcohol were served, and when the guy tried the alcohol, he realized that he really had an exquisite taste, and they had not made a mistake in choosing a restaurant. Looking at the guy drinking alcohol, Seongmu asked his older brother not to get drunk. As it turned out, Zhongguan was not drunk. Seongmu then began to worry about the smell, but Zhongguan had
Did I not pick up that fucking flight plan? Tell me I did.
The smell and negative effects, and decided to teach Seongmu.
Okay, yeah, I did.
He clearly could not refuse the opportunity to learn from the elder. Very soon.
I'm gonna have to go back to Stormwind. My bags is full.
And Seongmu, as a fairly capable guy, immediately everything began to work out. At that moment, 4 young men came to the pavilion and immediately saw Seongmu and Chungguan sitting at the table. As they approached, they announced that Zanana's diner.
Fuck it, I'm not. We're gonna take a flight plan down.
Even on the 3rd floor.
We're gonna take a long flight to Stormwind, baby. Let's go.
Because they thought that these were not real Taoists. Turning to the owner, they demanded to drive these poor people away, claiming that they had lost their appetite just by the sight of them. But the cook tried to explain that he could not do that, and asked them to choose another place. After this, the 4 men began to beat the owner, reminding him that they were the 4 richest men of Xena, and did not understand how such a lower class could dare to go against their will. The hero at that moment, not paying attention to what was happening.
Dawn Platinum removes 99% of grease. It's the GOAT. And that's coming from a duck. The better grease getter.
Asked to bring another bottle of Western Phoenix. This made one of the guys very angry, and he immediately took his hands off the poor diner owner. Seongmu didn't understand at all what his older brother was doing, but he calmly explained that they still wanted to drink, so he decided to order refills. At that moment, when the guys approached, deciding to punish Yongguan as well, Everyone witnessed how they flew out of the 3rd floor and landed on the ground. Everyone around them immediately recognized these 4 as the main scoundrels. These guys behaved this way because of their influential parents. But now they were in a terrible state, and the residents believed that this was necessary, because karma had returned to them with full force. But everyone was wondering why their mouths were stuffed with peas. Xiongmu was also interested in this, but Zhongguan explained that their clan could not afford to simply throw away food. He did not eat the peas because he did not like them. Secondly, was wondering what Zhongguan was going to do now. But he didn't understand what they were talking about, because he just helped teach a couple of unpleasant scoundrels a lesson. At that moment, the owner of the diner approached him, falling to his knees, and told him that the families of these young people would raise a big scandal for such abuse of their children, and asked for salvation. The hero, kneeling in front of the man, explained that if anyone complained, he could simply send these people to him. In addition, he gave him medicine so that he could heal his wounds. When the man asked who he was,
The fuck just
the hero
happened?
calmly asked if
Okay.
he knew about the 9.
All good, all good. I was tripping.
It then became obvious that he was a member of one of them. The blonde guy was still watching this. He realized that the hero was a truly interesting character who managed to attract his attention. Somewhere at the same time, IHawk and clan representatives held a dialogue. They explained that the Feng family had no hope, so the result for their clan would be obvious if they did not side with them. In response, IHawk realized that they began to talk openly about their goals, even before the true demon died and the Murim alliance existed, which calmly carried out its activities. These two already had some kind of agreement, but now they were just petty, relying on sweet talk and threats, so he was not afraid of them. As he stood up, he said that he would keep his promise to the Feng family, and there was nothing more for him to discuss. It became obvious that their clan would not side with them. The men believed that IHawk, like the rest of the sect, would regret his decision, and were willing to watch them face the consequences. But at that moment, an assistant to the clan head suddenly burst in and said that 4 Xenon magnates were seriously injured. They immediately tensed up when they heard about the 4 most powerful people being the sons of Xenon's elite. It became obvious that they definitely could not fight each other. Then the man said that, according to rumors, 2 Taoists were also involved in the fight, and when he looked at IHawk, it suddenly became clear to him who could be involved in this, although he still could not fully believe that it was the Pearl Dragon. At this moment, the 2 heads of the clan were very happy that it was Kunlun's disciples who committed such a vile act. They wanted to enjoy IHawk's suffering because of these idiots, after which they both spoke up and stated that whatever the reason for the fight, they did not understand how these people could do this to those who did not have martial arts skills. Xingxi was too much, and since these people consider themselves superior to others, they had to answer for their actions. Therefore, they demanded to know their names. At this moment, the clan man stated that according to the rumors he had heard, this was the work of their southern clan disciples. Very soon after this, IHawk began to go to his room, realizing that the owner of the restaurant and the customers who remained as witnesses had made a statement. The disciples of the Mount Hua clan and the southern clan had attacked 4 influential people, but he understood that in their right mind they would never have done such a thing, so he still suspected Yongguan of this act. And if he was to blame for this, then most likely he ran away and insulted the honor of the entire sect. But when he entered the room, he noticed that Xiongmu and Zhongguan were in their places. Zhongguan asked that next time IHawk knock before entering. He seriously calmed down when he saw that they were in their room, and apologized for such a sudden appearance, explaining that he was in a hurry and mistakenly went through another door. After leaving, he began to wonder why he doubted Zhongguan so much. Even if it was him, it is unlikely that he would have left any traces. As a result, IHawk doubted again, and therefore burst into the room again, believing that this was still his doing, and directly asked Zhongguan if he was definitely not to blame for anything. Looking at their uncomprehending faces, he explained about the incident of beating 4 influential people, but as soon as he looked at Xiongmu's face, he had a bad feeling that they were the culprits. Even the hero was angry that Xiongmu's lie was so obvious. Yongguan calmly explained that it was definitely not them, and he didn't even know who the 4 influential people were, or what they were. These words clearly calmed the man. He, as a senior, should not—
Thanks. What'd you get? Oh, I got another double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double whip, double hot, double...
not doubt his students, so he believed their words, and left. Soon after, Xiongmu began to ask the guy in a whisper if it was normal for them to deceive their uncle like this. But Zhongguan explained that he was not deceiving anyone. He really didn't know who these 4 great people were. He only heard about the 4 scoundrels. The guy objected that they really lied about the Mount Hua clan and the Southern clan, but the hero did not remember when he lied. The restaurant owner himself got it all wrong. He didn't argue only because he was lazy. After that, he already began to think about where they would look for food. This scared Xiongmu very much because they couldn't just leave somewhere when their uncle already suspected them. But this only made the hero laugh. He explained that his uncle is not the kind of person who takes back his words. If he believed them, he won't suspect anymore. When night fell, Seongmu was already asleep, and the hero was still meditating, and suddenly felt some kind of alien aura nearby. For this reason, he went up to the roof, where he already saw a well-known guy from the restaurant. Zhongguan immediately scolded him for his lack of manners, deciding to come to watch the sleepers. But he grinned, and reminded that he specifically testified that the attackers were from the Mount Hua clan and the Southern clan, and did not want the guy to continue to treat him badly. Yongguan only calmly explained that he did not ask him for such services. After these words, the guy was even interested in whether it was the same pearl dragon in front of him. He also introduced himself. He was from an unorthodox demonic association, and his name was Hu Weijin. The hero, having heard about this alliance, recognized the group, which gathered forces from an unorthodox faction of a demonic cult on the Central Plain. Hu Weijin explained that not long ago their alliance became official, after which the hero decided to find out why Hu Weijin was looking for him. As it turned out, the guy wanted to make an offer to join an unorthodox demonic association instead of some pathetic sect, but the hero refused, believing that their clan was the worst evil. Although this sounded quite cruel, Hu Weijin did not understand why Zhongguan considered them a dubious organization. After all, the Orthodox people were exactly the same. On the outside, they were all very noble, but in reality, they were ordinary hypocrites who were only interested in wealth and power. The hero understood what was being said, and even the guy himself was taken aback by the fact that the hero recognized his position, but with the exception of the Kunlun sect. He explained this by saying that they were indeed very poor. They had no external membership or branches. They didn't own a business, didn't organize fundraisers, didn't even have startup capital. Hearing this, Hu Weijin knew that he had found the right person. This guy had very boldly and cunningly made them the perfect target. Therefore, Hu Weijin explained to Zhongguan that they were on the same side, and it was not too late to join them. But Zhongguan reminded him that they were too incomprehensible for him. He didn't want the guy to waste his time anymore. This had already seriously hurt Hu Weijin, who did not make his proposals twice. He decided to teach a lesson to put him on the right path. The hero did not give up the fight, but suggested that both of them come to a quieter place, because if they wake someone up, nothing good will come of it. When they found themselves in the forest, Hu Weijin invited the enemy to take out his sword, but he himself declared that, like a real man, he would fight with his fists. Zhongguan only awkwardly noted that his opponent had a severe form of narcissism, calling it a disease, after which he closed the distance between them in a second, explaining that he also intended to fight with his bare hands. Immediately after this, the battle ended. To Zhongguan's surprise, Hu Weijin managed to fend off his attacks, and he realized that his opponent was indeed quite interesting. Hu Weijin himself was panicking. As soon as he was distracted for a second, they already got the better of him. He felt as if this guy had been reborn from an adult into a child. He tried to attack, but the hero easily managed to repel all attacks, and noticed that the guy suddenly took out his blades. Zhongguan reminded him that he had to fight with his fists. Hu Weijin just grinned, explaining that men could also use daggers if necessary, but the hero was also able to easily evade these attacks. After analyzing Hu Weijin's fighting technique, he realized that his movements were quite confident, and he was much stronger than the opponents he had fought before. Smiling, he explained that Hu Weijin should have been born into the heavenly demon cult instead of some unorthodox faction. But this only made the enemy laugh. He would hardly be able to live with such cruel people. However, Zhongguan, who was born there in a past life, understood that in fact the people living there were not as evil as everyone around him believed. After that, he hit Hu Weijin in the face. When he got to his feet after the attack, he realized that Zhongguan had been hiding his real strength all this time. But looking back, he did not find the enemy. As it turned out, the hero was already above his head and
20 for 5.
After some time, Hu Weijin
Oh no, 5 for 20.
Seeing Zhongguan sitting next to his things,
That's 4 gold apiece.
he really intended to steal his things, as if he were not a Taoist at all. The hero asked how he was feeling, but the guy was still more worried about the things that the hero took from him. He calmly explained that there was nothing worthwhile there. When Hu Wijin called him to the Unorthodox Association, he thought that he had a high status, but in fact, he was just an ordinary member. The enemy chuckled, explaining that people at the top carry almost nothing with them. Zhang Guan decided to ask directly if he held any high position. Then the guy calmly explained that he was the top disciple of the Unorthodox Demonic Association, the Pearl Kilin, named Hu Wijin. The hero was really surprised that the guy called himself the Pearl Kilin, and he himself had blood all over his nose, and believed that he had reached the highest degree of narcissism, but still, trying not to reveal his true thoughts. He decided to find out what the student of their unification was doing in Zenoth. Hu Wijin lied, explaining that he was just passing by. Then the hero decided not to stand on ceremony with him anymore and simply sell him. He knew that in the Demonic Association, part of the unorthodox faction, fighting for the place of heir was commonplace. These fights usually go to the very end, ending in the death of either one or the other. He was even wondering how much he would get if he put the heir up for auction. Frightened Hu Wijin asked the guy not to rush to conclusions and decided to tell the truth about his arrival. He came by order of the master to establish a branch in Shangxi. The hero knew that Shangxi was very close to Henan, where the main headquarters of the Murim Alliance was.
Let's see how much this is.
Likely, they want to establish a branch nearby to expand the influence of the unorthodox faction, threatening the disciples of the orthodox faction. And he was absolutely right about this. The hero understood that sending a student on such an important task was initially doomed to failure. Hu Wijin tried to argue, proving that he was the master's right hand, and this was not a failure. Looking at the guy, Chongguan understood that the Demonic Association probably had another candidate for the successor. Otherwise, they would have big problems with such an heir. Having seen enough of such a pitiful Hu Wijin, he decided to leave, realizing that he was not worth even a penny. But the frightened Hu Wijin tried to stop him, explaining that he might die soon. Then the hero suggested that he do at least something to save his life. After all, on that day he testified against the Hua Mountain clan and the Southern clan. This can be taken advantage of. In other words, the families of those scoundrels have authority in the government, and therefore they can destabilize both clans. Taking advantage of the new reason, they will try to weaken their influence, because they will need some kind of compensation that will help turn a blind eye to this case. But the clan heads weren't stupid. They weren't likely to just hand over a ton of money for an incident they weren't even involved in, especially considering the existence of a law on non-interference in the affairs of the Murim Alliance. Both sides will not be able to start an open conflict, so they will spend a lot of time finding out how everything really happened. But at this moment, an unorthodox demonic association may appear. Hearing this, Hu Wijin realized that when these people could not publicly seek compensation from the clans, and powerful families demanded compensation, they would be able to spread their influence. Both sides will have no choice but to let them gain the upper hand and increase the profits of the orthodox sects. In this case, their branch will increase its importance without shedding anyone's blood. If successful, Hu Wijin will also be able to increase his status in the eyes of the master. After he himself came to this thought, the hero extended his hand and ordered him to pay money for revealing to him a way to solve all his troubles. Hu Wijin displeasedly explained to Chongguan that he had already taken all his money and emptied all his pockets. But the guy calmly explained that there was nothing useful there. Hu Wijin understood that Chongguan did not see the value in his things. But when the hero looked at the loot again, he realized that the most valuable thing among the things was the jade sign. As it turned out, this jade sign was the symbol of the Pearl Kilin, that is, the symbol of Hu Wijin himself. After these words, the hero intended to throw away the jade sign, but Hu Wijin did not understand why he would throw away such a valuable thing, and asked the guy if he knew about the Iron Blood family. The hero heard that this was a family of the greatest blacksmiths. If he heard about them in a past life, it means that they were very famous.
Why would the bars and the ore be the same fucking price? You motherfuckers clearly are stupid.
If he showed this sign and said that they were friends, he could get a valuable weapon. The hero didn't want to lie when he called Hu Wijin his friend, but he would have to say so if he wanted to get the weapon. But the guy himself understood that if this was really true, and somehow connected with the Iron Blood family, then he definitely needed to set aside...
Yeah, a goldenrod is 9 gold. 10 gold.
To say goodbye.
Okay. Y'all...
Hu Wijin realized that he had never managed to lure this man, but he was truly a master of his craft. It was even scary to imagine what such a guy might have in his mind and what path he would choose in the future. As they were about to say goodbye, Hu Weijin asked the hero what he was going to do, and he explained that he was now chained to the earth, but wanted to one day find freedom that would have no boundaries. Finally, it was time to return home, when the sun had already risen. In his room, in addition to Xiong Mu, he also saw Ai Hak, who was wondering where the hero was. He calmly explained that he was at morning training and asked Ai Hak if he wanted to accompany him starting the next day. Ai Hak was scared, explaining that he would only distract Yongguan from training because he was capable of taking care of himself. He simply warned the little one that after eating they would be heading out and asked them to get their things ready. After Ai Hak tried to escape, Zhongguan noticed that he was full of energy and suggested that they train while on the road. Soon, the surprised Xiong Mu decided to find out why their uncle reacted so strangely when training was mentioned. But Zhongguan understood that this was not strange. After all, no one wanted to train according to a complicated program. As a result, the day after tomorrow, when the Kunlun disciples left Xenon, as Zhongguan promised, they trained along the way, and this training was not easy for anyone. At this time, Xiong Mu, under the supervision of a teacher, studied the art of lower heaven Qi, because it was decided that he needed to master all the basic techniques before it was too late. Very soon, this eventful time came to an end, and they arrived at the place where the Muram Alliance was located. Ai Hak understood that although the final goal had not yet been achieved, they decided to stop there in order to rest a little. He invited all his followers to look around the city and just look around. While walking with everyone, Xiongmu noticed that there were several buildings here that were built not long ago. This indicated renovation. Most likely, it was associated with the restructuring of the alliance. He understood that the price of land had also increased, but he suddenly stopped himself, remembering that he was now a disciple of Kunlun, and not the heir of a trading association. There was no point in him thinking about it. In addition, he was worried that he started learning martial arts at a fairly late age, so he had a hard time with the lower heaven Qi art, and he did not have time to be distracted. Now he had to carefully watch his older brother and improve his abilities. But at that moment, Zhongguan called the guy over and explained that he was planning to spend some money and asked Xiongmu to help him with the investment. He awkwardly explained that he was no longer a merchant, but a disciple of the great clan. But Zhongguan knew this, and still began to ask him what was better, investing in real estate or trading. At that moment, the guy realized that it was unlikely that the hero really considered him his younger brother, because they only talked about money. But wanting to bribe the guy, Zhongguan asked about the art of lower heaven Qi. He explained that his master's method was a little outdated, and there was a way to master lower heaven Qi much faster. Obviously, Xiongmu immediately became eager to learn this art and suggested that Zhongguan invest in different areas first and achieve stability. Therefore, he suggested that he invest in land and select cheap plots. He listened carefully to all this advice, after which they moved on with the group, and they were carefully watched by a girl interested
That would go hard, though.
It was already getting dark. Everyone decided to return to their homes, since many Taoists were hungry and wanted to rest peacefully after such a busy excursion. But at that moment, an unknown girl approached the hero, deciding to find out about him and ask a few questions. As far as she understood, he was a Taoist, but she was curious to know why he was trying to acquire land in this place. The hero, instead of answering, only asked the girl to introduce herself, after which she finally took off her hat covering her face and introduced herself. Her name was Young Yun Jin.
No
She
one's
was
ever
from the
stolen
Jinju
anything
family.
out of here. Not in
After
the whole
this, the
history
hero
of
also
the whole
introduced himself.
history.
The girl again asked why the guy wanted to buy the land, but he calmly explained that he wanted to buy it in order to get rich, live, and eat well. But after his answer, he also wondered why she suddenly came with her questions out of nowhere, and now she was just silent, as if she had bipolar disorder. In a past life, he would have simply passed by or sent him to hell, but now he clearly could not do this, since he was from a religious sect. Laughing, Young Yunjin noted that Yung Guan was quite an entertaining person. At this point, the guy decided that he could just compliment the girl and say goodbye. He noticed that there was something more beautiful about her than her face. He noticed the calluses on her hands and noted that they looked quite good. He believed that she had such powerful hands that it seemed that she could cut a cobblestone in half with them. She again dissatisfiedly thanked for the compliment, after which she was about to leave. The hero did not understand what caused her anger and why she looked as if his words were rude. Here Xiongmu approached, who was amazed at the hero more and more every day. He could not understand how the guy could say such a thing to the fist fighter Yang Yunjin. one of the 9 dragons and 4 phoenixes. But the hero explained that it was a compliment, because the fighters are proud of the fact that they fight with their bare hands. However, few of them actually fought with only their fists. Most used special gloves or horn-shaped daggers, and sometimes, if things went wrong, they resorted to their secret weapon. Many warriors also knew that this girl really fought exclusively with her hands. After such explanations from Young Guan, it really sounded like a compliment. After all, if her fingers looked like that, then her palms probably looked like that, which was commendable. Xiong Mu agreed, realizing that, as Zhongguan says, her hands speak of hard training and really deserve compliments. But Zhongguan gave them the wrong way. First, he should have praised her appearance. Then he would have noted that such a beauty was sorry for her hands for the sake of martial arts. The hero realized that this actually sounded logical, and he wondered how many girls Sung Mu had on his account. But after this question, the guy became sad, and Zhongguan even thought that there were so many of them that it was hard to count. But soon everyone realized that he had not met anyone, so they gathered around Xiong Mu to sympathize with the young guy. The whole night passed like this. The next day,
18 more.
to have breakfast, but the owner of the restaurant asked to go outside because a guest was expecting them. This confused the guys because they knew that the elders had gone to a meeting, and they asked who this guest was looking for. As it turned out, the man was looking for Yung Guan. When he came out, he saw a man who joyfully greeted the young warrior. The hero clearly did not understand what was happening. The guest explained that he could simply be called by his name, and then, shaking his hand, the man introduced himself, explaining that he was from the poor forest, although it did not sound very good, but was also known by the nickname Righteous Dragon. Hearing this, the hero realized that he was clearly an important person to the alliance. Although Yu Jinpun understood, he admitted that he came to the hero with a request. The hero immediately thought that the man needed help. He gave him a check paper and asked him to spend the money wisely, invest it in investments. But Yu Jinpun explained that he did not come here for money. Then the hero thought that perhaps he had not eaten for a long time. He decided to pay for his lunch so that he would eat. As a result, when about half an hour had passed and the table was already full of empty
Shit, I know what I gotta do.
that he had not come here to beg, but thanked him for feeling more alive after the hero did not understand how he could stay this after such a hearty meal. But Yu Jinpun explained that he would not be a beggar if he refused free food. He asked the hero for the opportunity to talk in private, because he saw that his brothers were looking at him with indescribable curiosity. Then the hero
Altar storms and burning steeps.
When they were in the gazebo, Chongguan asked Yu Jinpun to tell him what he wanted to ask him. The man immediately asked the hero how he managed to talk so calmly and peacefully. The hero did not understand what was going on, and explained that he was often accused of being rude, but he had always been like this, and could not do anything about it. As it turned out, the point was that Yu Jinpun wanted to understand how to casually talk to a beauty like Miss Young Jin, as if it were a normal thing. Then the hero realized that this man
The fuck out of there.
problems with women, and he could not utter a word in front of the beauties. The hero did not understand at all what the problem was. If a man lives calmly as a beggar, then he has absolutely nothing to fear. But he explained with tears in his eyes that everything was completely different. He did not understand how his pitiful origin was connected with the ability to talk to girls. He had already learned that Yang Yunjin was interested in the Taoist, who was talking about buying land, which means that she was definitely not attracted by Zhongguan's appearance. The hero was even amazed that this man had already managed to conduct an entire investigation, but this was not surprising, because they were, after all, from the sect of the poor. And yet, watching the hero, the man came to the conclusion that charm somehow influenced speech, and he wanted to learn it. The hero understood that the man clearly misunderstood something, but Yu Jinpun knew for sure that a person may not know himself completely. He admitted that he learned about Zhongguan from an acquaintance. He definitely must have known a guy named Peng Kanghui, who spoke very highly of Zhongguan the last time they met. Therefore, Yu Jinpun asked to help him as Peng Kanghui's brother. The hero calmly asked why Yu Jinpun suddenly decided to learn to talk like him, if he had lived normally before. As it turned out, everything was fine with him before, but now the one he loves has appeared. Just the thought of her made him happier, so he, leaning his forehead on the table, asked and begged for help. The hero, just looking calmly at the man, tried to understand whether he could get something useful if he helped him, and wanted to think about how he could benefit from this situation. Suddenly he realized that he could take advantage of the poor people's ability to gather information. He offered to help Yu Jinpun in exchange for his help. He immediately agreed if it did not contradict their way of life. The hero just smiled a sly smile and promised that he would not ask for anything like that in return, because after all, he was a member of a religious sect. Very soon, when the hero outlined his demands, Yu Jinpun was in shock, not understanding whether the guy really wanted help with this. But he considered this a normal requirement, since it did not contradict their agreement and was not something bad. Finally, after this, the owner of the restaurant came, who brought with him the most famous merchants, about whom he had recently told Chengguan himself. Then the hero explained to the gentleman that he was going to purchase inexpensive plots of land in the surrounding area, and hoped for their help in this matter. But he immediately reminded them that there would be consequences for them if the price turned out to be unreasonably high. So he made it clear that if they cheated, he could always take back what was stolen from them tenfold. But he promised that if everything went well, he would make transactions through them in the future. So he asked them to work hard. They immediately bowed down and promised to help Chongguan. As a result, Yu Jinpun's task was for him to find out and talk about the best merchants, so the poor man decided to leave, asking Chongguan not to forget about his part of the agreement. As a result, Chongguan decided not to rely only on merchants. He had already demonstrated his strength, but he understood that people tend to change when it comes to money. For this reason, he asked for help from Yu Jinpong of the poor sect to ensure that the merchants were operating honestly. This was just the beginning. Arriving at Xiongmu, Chongguan explained that he should go and ask people on the street about the cost of the selected plots. Although the guy had just eaten and clearly didn't want to do it. But Chongguan promised that as soon as Xiongmu finished his task, he would teach him to quickly master the art of lower breathing. Xiongmu immediately ran to fulfill his part of the agreement. As a result, everything went incredibly quickly, and by chance, Chongguan managed to acquire quite large tracts of land. Yu Jinpun then appeared, reminding him that it was Zhongguan's turn to help him. In response, the hero explained that first he wanted to introduce him to his younger brother. After Yu Jinpun and Xiongmu met, the latter did not understand what was happening. Zhongguan calmly explained that Yu Jinpun wanted to learn more about communicating with girls, so Xiongmu would teach the man. According to Yongguan, his younger brother knows very well how to attract attention. During a conversation with Yon Yunjin yesterday, he said very smart things that Yu Jinpun overheard. Seongmu knew very well that first he needed to praise the woman's face, and then her hands. She is beautiful, but she sacrifices the beauty of her hands in the name of martial arts, like a real warrior. After such a quotation of Seongmu's words, it became incredibly awkward. Yu Jinpun wanted to find out from the guy what he sees as the main problem. Seongmu was very embarrassed because he was not an expert, and just casually said these things. He made it clear to the man that his main obstacle was his low origin. At this moment, Ihawk suddenly came. Everyone greeted the head, and Zhongguan asked his uncle in surprise why he returned so early. As it turned out, Ihawk came to find out from Chengguan what he had done, and invited him to go out into the street, where a crowd of young people had gathered, looking for him. When Zhongguan came out, he was immediately greeted by one of the young guys. He came after hearing rumors that the hero acted rudely towards a Phoenix-level fighter. Chengguan calmly explained to the guy that he was just making a compliment, but he ordered him not to lie, claiming that independent witnesses told how it all happened. Yongguan asked what kind of relationship he and Yon Yunjin were in, but when they couldn't answer, it became obvious that they had come to find out without even knowing the girl. The embarrassed guy said it didn't matter, and ordered Yongguan to apologize to Young Yunjin. But he believed that he had done nothing wrong and refused to apologize. In this case, there was only one way out. The guy demanded a fight with Chongguan from Kunlun. Zhongguan looked at Ihawk as if waiting for permission. Ihawk himself was in doubt. He could understand the guy's feelings towards his beloved, but demanding a fight without even noticing the presence of the head of the clan was obvious rudeness. At this point, Yu Jinpun intervened and scolded the guy for his inappropriate behavior in front of the head of the clan. He was ashamed of this young man, and he ordered an apology for his action. When the guy tried to justify himself, Yu Jinpun did not pay attention and continued to scold him, ordering him to leave. Otherwise, he would go straight to their clans and families and tell about what happened. Yu Jinpun himself knew very well that these children were the future of their faction, and did not understand how they could be trusted to fight a war with an unorthodox demonic association. After that, he himself bowed before the head and apologized for the behavior of these young people. Ihawk calmly explained to Yu Jinpun that there was no need to apologize so much, because everything was fine. The head of the clan understood perfectly well that this man, who was called the Correct Dragon, was quite smart. However, if they simply kicked out the young people, it could could be perceived
Come
as a
on.
slap in
Oh,
the face
shit.
to their intent. So it was wiser to agree to the proposed duel. At that moment, Chung Guan, leaning towards IHawk, whispered and suggested teaching these arrogant guys a lesson so that they would not dare to return again. Although IHawk thought the wording was too harsh, he still agreed to let Chung Guan teach them a lesson, asking them to be incapacitated for at least a month. Chung Guan, encouraged by this permission, was already planning to send these guys to rest. But IHawk clarified that it would be enough to simply send them to rest. Taking into account the wishes of the head, Chung Guan promised to be moderate in his actions. Approaching the arrogant guy, he accepted the challenge to a duel. The enemy, filled with pride, declared that he would use the 13th Sword of Thunder and Lightning, along with the endless celestial technique, warning the hero to be careful. As soon as the fight began, the self-confident young man rushed to attack, but the result was lightning fast. Chung Guan delivered such a powerful slap in the face that the opponent instantly collapsed to the ground. Not stopping there, Chung Guan dealt just as effectively with the other contenders. They did not even have time to properly greet him as an opponent before they were defeated. Watching this impressive display of power, Yu Jinpun was in complete shock. Despite the fact that the skills of the vanquished were of a rather low level, Chung Guan's ability to deal with several opponents without the slightest sign of fatigue caused genuine admiration. It was difficult for Yu Jinpun to even imagine the true power of the project. At that moment, he remembered his conversation with King Kanghui, who told how 4 years ago Chung Guan, while still at a young age, showed him his Tao. Yu Jinpun knew very well that over the past 4 years, this monster could have become even more terrifying. Driven by the desire to experience this combat power for himself, he bowed respectfully and asked Chung Guan for a duel. However, the hero, having finished dealing with his opponents, was already heading after his uncle, since it was time for them to return. Yu Jinpun, realizing the situation, proposed to meet early the next morning. But the hero understood his intention to fight, but reminded them of their original goal. Because if they waste time fighting, they are unlikely to have time to deal with his problem with communication. Reasoning wisely, the beggar decided to first learn the art of charm, and only then begin combat trials. After this incident, IHawk seriously reprimanded Chung Guan for hitting too hard. The guy awkwardly made excuses, claiming that he dealt only one blow to each opponent, and was not to blame for their weakness. However, IHawk persistently explained that this is why he needs to learn to calculate the force applied to the enemy. When Chung Guan tried to object, IHawk threatened 4 days of lectures reading Taoist texts, hoping that this would finally teach him to listen to his elders. Frightened by the prospect of hours of reading ancient texts, the hero tried to distract IHawk by offering to do more important things. To his relief, it worked, and he was released. Xiong Mu, who was observing everything, curiously listened to the reprimand. But Chung Guan, rejoicing
they alright.
texts, did not want to discuss it. Then Xiong decided to remind Chung Guan about his promise to help with the art of the lower sky. Having seated the guy opposite him, Chung Guan explained that he would try to transfer some of his qi to open a forced flow of energy. He warned Xiong Mu about the upcoming pain, and advised him to prepare to accept this flow. As the process began, Xiong Mu felt for the first time what true qi flow was like, and his body began to fill with energy. At that moment, Chung Guan caught himself thinking that in his past life, he could not even imagine such a reality, where he was reprimanded by the head of a righteous sect, and he himself taught his younger brother. To his surprise, he discovered that he really liked this new life. When morning came, Xiong Mu finally completed his meditation on the lower sky.
Why does it feel like...
And he sincerely thanked Chung Guan for his help, realizing that without his assistance, this process would have taken forever. Chung Guan, after listening to Sung Mu's gratitude, explained that if he really wants to thank him, then he should...
Okay, I gotta do something with that moldy tome. Hold on. Toma Cabal.
The acquisition of land itself is only the beginning of the journey. And
1,000 needles? Cool.
Either simply wait until its value increases naturally, or take some active steps to increase its value. Xiong Mu initially expressed a desire to focus on training, but when Chung Guan promised to teach him the technique of the Way of Dragons in exchange for help,
I gotta go to the, was it Azra? Fucking Kalimdor.
Time on empty talk. Left alone, Chung Guan was lost in thought. Having become part of the alliance, he understood the need to study the martial arts of other orthodox sects. He was especially interested in the presence of truly experienced...
We're about to take a shortcut.
...different from yesterday's weaklings. Given his level of power, He was aware that the situation could get out of control if he challenged any recognized expert to a duel. Therefore, he decided that it would be wiser to find an opponent of his own age. At this moment, Yu Jinpun appeared and respectfully greeted the young warrior. Looking at the hero, he immediately realized that he needed someone from the circle of 9 dragons and 4 phoenixes. Yu Jinpun reminded Zhongguan of his promise to help teach the art of communication. Zhongguan, who had truly forgotten about it, explained that his younger brother had unfortunately passed away recently. However, Yu Jinpun suggested not to worry about it, admitting that he understood that Shou Mu was not as good as he seemed. He cited begging as the main problem, even though that was his job. The man also mentioned that his lover was somewhere nearby. Zhongguan instantly guessed that she could be one of the 4 phoenixes, and his guess turned out to be correct. Yu Jinpun suggested that Zhongguan observe their dialogue and then point out the mistakes and suggest how to correct them. This plan completely suited Zhongguan, since he just wanted to see one of the phoenixes. He already knew that the 9 dragons and 4 phoenixes were considered the best martial artists of their generation, and he was curious about Yu Jinpun's position among them. Yu Jinpun explained that being a dragon or phoenix does not necessarily mean absolute superiority. The reputation of a sect or family greatly influences fame. He noted that they were not the only ones with great influence in the Central Plain. For example, not a single disciple from Kunlun, Diankang, Kanton, or other distant sects had the status of a dragon or phoenix. He admitted that he had not yet surpassed everyone, but he had already surpassed about half of the 9 dragons and 4 phoenixes. The hero was quite satisfied with the result he heard, so he suggested quickly going to meet Yu Jinpun's beloved. They headed towards the spring tea house, where Yu Jinpun asked Zhongguan to keep his distance and quietly observe what was happening. When the hero noticed Yu Jinpun's beloved, he immediately felt the cold energy emanating from her. Yu Jinpun approached the girl, greeted her, but finding no more words, immediately said goodbye. Returning to Zhongguan's desk, Yu Jinpun asked about his mistakes. Zhongguan was amazed. Was this
Where the fuck is the flight master around here?
Yu Jinpun's problem was that he couldn't even continue the conversation while looking into her eyes because his heart was about to burst from excitement. Zhongguan, reflecting on the situation of a man whose main problem was the very presence of a girl, proposed a solution. If you cannot speak with words, you can communicate with body language. An agitated Yu Jinpun retorted that their relationship had not reached that level. Then Zhongguan suggested challenging the girl to a duel, believing that after tactile contact in battle, they would be able to feel each other better and find the right words. However, Yu Jinpun explained the impossibility of such a plan. In the event of a duel, there could be no contact, since it would cost him his life. It turned out that she was a poison phoenix from the Zichuan Tang family, and poison was her main weapon. Hearing this, Zhongguan finally understood the reason for Yu Jinpun's concern about his health. However, for Zhongguan himself, this coincidence of circumstances turned out to be very successful. Just when he was looking for a way to increase his endurance,
Yeah, hypocrite.
opportunity turned up. With decisive intention, Zhongguan approached the girl and calmly expressed his desire to fight with her. His straightforwardness shocked both the girl herself and Yu Jinpun. She quickly explained that in their Chulin family, they only fight to the death and do not engage in regular duels, asking him to leave. However, Zhongguan knew their rules very well. In battle, one of the participants had to put his
Mind me not to go to Darnassus any fucking more.
carefully observing his voice and gestures, understood the seriousness of his intentions. She wondered, who is in front of her? Just an arrogant youth or a true martial artist who is not afraid of death? Just when she was about to refuse, an agitated Yu Jinpun intervened, trying to dissuade the one he called his younger brother. He persistently explained that one should not so frivolously negotiate a battle with the poisonous phoenix. The girl was interested in the reason for Yu Jinpun's zeal in trying to stop the fight. At that moment, Yu Jinpun wanted to confess to her that he considered her cruel for not noticing his feelings for several months. But he, unable to even speak to her, could only squeeze out that he did not want the girl to get hurt during the battle. These words hurt the girl. She took them as a hint of her weakness. Angry, she promised that one day she would fight Yu Jinpun himself to see if he would dare to repeat this after the fight. Turning to Zhongguan, she introduced herself as Tan Yoji. He also said his name, which turned out to be familiar to the poisonous phoenix. The hero understood that that girl with calloused hands probably had been trying to tell something unflattering about him, although he was just trying to make a compliment. Looking at Zhongguan, the poisonous phoenix thought that she was facing some kind of madman. She decided to test him. After pouring a cup of tea, Tang Yuji began to explain the different types of poisons and methods of poisoning. Poisons that destroy the lungs when inhaled, cause harm when in contact with the skin, clot the blood, destroy organs when mixed with alcohol, but she called the most effective the direct entry of poison into the body through ingestion. While serving Zhongguan a cup of poisoned tea, she made a condition. She will agree to his challenge only if the poison has no effect on him. When the hero accepted the cup, Tang Yoji, swearing on the name of her family, explained that the poison was not lethal. It was used only to test the dignity of the contender for the duel. Zhongguan drank the tea without even wincing and asked if she had anything stronger. Surprised by this reaction, she offered him several more types of poison. The hero gratefully accepted and drank the poisoned tea, praising the drink for its refreshing taste. Tang Yuji was in complete amazement. She could not detect even a particle of the poisoned qi, as if his body had completely digested the poison. Excitedly asking about possible symptoms, weakness in the limbs or difficulty breathing, she received a light-hearted answer that the only inconvenience was slight nausea due to skipping breakfast. Having accepted his game, the girl began to explain the intricacies of working with poisons. She emphasized that not only the degree of their danger is important, a person must be able to control the toxic effect, especially when working with them. The poison must be such that it is impossible to defend against it, and its composition must not be easily recognizable. Her family had to give up many poisons that did not meet these criteria. Tang Yoji also mentioned the financial side of the issue. Poisonous substances are very expensive, and if the effect does not justify the cost, such poison is also abandoned. Despite the wealth of the Sichuan Tang family, she did not have many funds at her personal disposal. As a poison phoenix in a clan that valued skill above all else, she only had one student. At the end of the conversation, she handed over the ampule to Jiangguan, explaining that this was the best poison she currently owned. Tan Yoji, giving Chongguan a special poison, called it explosive accumulative poison. She explained in detail that this composition differs significantly from the previous ones in its unique effect. Without hesitation for a second, the hero immediately took the poison, and concentrating, realized that this substance really exceeded all his expectations. According to its characteristics, it was a classic synthetic poison, causing toxins to gradually accumulate in the body, which was reflected in the eardrums. That is why the poison received such a telling name. Through his experience, Zhongguan was able to identify the main ingredients: honeycomb licorice, Kamchatka radiata trillium, as well as several unknown components that originated from the secret recipes of the Sichuan Tang family. Watching the guy's deep meditation, Tang Yuji tried to convince him to give up, emphasizing that even for such a strong master, this poison could be excessive. A frightened Yu Jinpong also tried to intervene, arguing that now was not the time for such tests, and even offered to transfer some of his chai to help cope with the effects of the poison. However, Chongguan calmly but firmly asked everyone to move away so as not to disturb his concentration. Those present froze in amazement, realizing that despite the effects of such a powerful poison, the guy still retained the ability to speak during regeneration. Moreover, no one could detect any deviations in his qi flows. In fact, Yongguan achieved this thanks to his special alcohol elimination skill. Although he told Xiang Mu that he discovered this ability during normal drunkenness, in reality, this skill came to him from a past life where he created immunity to 10,000 different poisons. Initially, this technique was used specifically to cleanse the body of deadly toxins. After completing the neutralization process, Zhongguan decided to discuss several aspects of the poison he drank with Tan Yoji. He accurately determined that the composition was designed in such a way that the victim was in a painful state between life and death. Although it was not easy for the girl to admit this, fearing condemnation from orthodox sects who consider such methods to be cruel, Chongguan, on the contrary, highly appreciated her skill. He noted the exceptional effectiveness of the poison, explaining that direct murder inevitably entails blood feud for the clan of the deceased, while the use of such a mixture creates space for negotiations and avoids unnecessary bloodshed. Tang Yuji was amazed at how quickly he understood the strategic importance of its development in preventing conflicts from escalating into full-scale war. Zhongguan also praised the Sichuan Tang clan's Poison Phoenix for skillfully reducing the cost of producing the poison. The complex mixture was created from relatively inexpensive ingredients. While they were discussing the intricacies of poisoning, Yu Jinpun listened carefully to the conversation of his friends, completely not understanding the specific terms and being completely bewildered by their professional dialogue. Zhongguan then made a small cut on his finger to get rid of the remaining fulminate, intending to experimentally mix it with other compounds previously obtained from Tang Yoji. When
This is gonna hurt.
his poisoned blood fell into the container, the girl watched the reaction with sincere interest, wanting to understand
Oh, I missed the trees.
poison would change after such mixing. However, Zhongguan suggested that the
Do I land in the fucking water is my question. I think I cleared it. Oh no, don't hit that, don't hit that, don't hit that, don't hit that.
Despite the fact that he did not belong to the Sichuan family, she asked to partake in their duel.
I lived.
A desire to improve other poisonous compounds with his help, to which Zhongguan readily agreed. Suddenly, their conversation was interrupted by the appearance of Yang Yunjin, who froze in amazement when she saw Zhongguan next to her friend. When the hero tried to greet her, she pointedly turned away, clearly showing her reluctance to communicate with him. At that moment, another young man approached them. He recognized Zhongguan as the famous demon from Kunlun. The hero awkwardly noted that although he was indeed from Kunlun, he could not agree with the first part of the nickname, and did not understand who called him that. It was revealed that the nickname came from a still resentful Yan Yunjin after receiving an unfortunate compliment. The young man introduced himself as Namjun Ryok, also known as the Dragon of the Blade, and asked if Zhongguan had heard of him. It was obvious that Zhongguan didn't understand why he should know this person. At that moment, Tan Yoji approached them and, ignoring Namjun Ryok's presence,
Alright,
asked
now to
to go to another
fucking go through the...
Such a dismissive attitude clearly hurt Namjun, and he decided to find out the reasons for such cold behavior. Tang Yuji awkwardly explained her behavior as being too busy and apologized for the disrespect. Young Yunjin curiously asked where her friend was going to go, because
Now to figure out where the fuck that portal takes me.
was more interested in what Tan Yoji and Zhongguan did in private and what kind of relationship they had. Looking at Namjun Ryok with obvious displeasure, Tan Yoji explained that she had discussed poisons with her dear friend. This performance of Zhongguan clearly hurt both Yang Yunjin and Namjun Ryok himself. The latter could not believe that Zhongguan really knows about poisons. His amazement only intensified when he learned about the hero's ability to use them. Zhongguan even enthusiastically told how Tan Yoji recently gave him a very strong and at the same time surprisingly tasty poison. Not trusting Zhongguan's words, Namjun turned to Tan Yoji herself for confirmation. When she confirmed what she had said, and Yu Jinpun added that Zhongguan was even able to determine the composition of the poison, Namjun was completely bewildered. He couldn't believe that someone was capable of not only drinking the Sichuan Tang family's poison, but also recognizing its components. Assuming that Tan Yoji deliberately gave Zhongguan a weak cast, he became angry, suspecting that the girl really liked this upstart, since she so pointedly ignores him. Deciding to prove his superiority, Namjun Ryok asked Tan Yoji for the same poison. When she explained that the composition was the only one of its kind, he demanded that Zhongguan give him his own poison. After being refused and hearing that the collected poison was too valuable, Namjun Ryok, motivated by a desire to impress, offered gold bars in exchange. Zhongguan, thinking about the proposal, regretted that Sung Mu, who had a better understanding of market prices, was not nearby. Offended by such indecisiveness, Namjun Ryok laid out all the money he had on him. Satisfied with the amount, Zhongguan decided that he could now afford a small loss. Having measured out 3 drops of poison into a cup, Zhongguan warned that this amount was enough to cause death. Namjun considered his words a manifestation of arrogance. Even when Tan Yoji tried to dissuade him by explaining Zhongguan's special resistance to poisons, Namjun only became angrier, considering himself no less special. Having drunk the poison, Namjun immediately felt its effect. Blood gushed from his throat and he collapsed to his knees, slowly dying. Yu Jinpun understood that Tang Yuji should have neutralized the effect of the poison, but she did not have an antidote. Even young Yunjin began to panic. Tang Yoji explained that the poison was a mixture of 3 other compounds extracted from Zhongguan's body, so ordinary antidotes were ineffective. Those around him could not believe that the son of the head of the family, Namjun, could die in this way. Yu Jinpun turned to Zhongguan for help in creating an antidote, since he was the one who created this composition. Zhongguan calmly explained that the guy's life could end at any second, and there was practically no chance of recovery. However, looking at the dying man, Zhongguan still approached him. He asked what made Namjun act so rashly despite Tan Yoji's warnings. Bending over the dying man, the hero asked whether he really needed help and what he was willing to give for his salvation. Returning to the events leading up to the conversation with the dying Namjun, The young master's condition was rapidly deteriorating. His chest seemed to be shackled with iron hoops, and his lungs began to work convulsively, trying to cope with the effects of the poison through hyperventilation. Despite trying to protect his lungs with qi, his stomach filled with acute pain, and then his limbs began to fail. His hands began to shake, and he gradually lost his sense of touch. It was at this moment that Namjoon Ryuk began to bitterly regret his rash act, committed out of pure envy. The realization that he was about to die such a miserable death, especially after the news that Tang Yuji had no antidote, made him despair. The offer of help from Chong
Dun, dun, dun.
whisper of attempted
Time to go kill some shit. Come on, get your ass there. I wish I'd. Ooh, I should get the flight plan timer.
to follow Jungguan's instructions exactly. Tang Yoji and Yu Jinping, who were watching what was happening,
Stamp stacking.
extremely difficult to remove, even for such a master as Jungguan. However, Tan Yoji's concern turned out.
Yeah, it's a wolf.
The hero was not so interested in saving Namjoon, but in the opportunity to study the secret breathing technique of the Nam family. Jungguan explained that he would begin to pour part of his chi into the body of Namjoon Ryuk, who should not resist, but obediently accept this.
Hey.
The hero was to protect his vital organs, the lungs and heart, so that he could concentrate on restoring the rest of the organs. When Jungguan began channeling his energy into Namjoon Ryuk's body, it became obvious that he was using comparable to the high heaven chi art.
Alright, Phil, what it is, let's get. I gotta go and deliver this shit.
Namjoon Ryuk realized with horror that someone was demonstrating the true art of Azure Sky Ki, which was the secret technique of their family. Noticing the guy's fear, Jungguan urged him to concentrate and discard unnecessary thoughts, which was really reasonable advice. All questions could be asked after healing. Having announced to those present that the countdown would begin from 3, the hero prepared to extract the poison chi from Namjoon's body. When the count came to an end, Namjoon Ryuk realized Jungguan's true intention, to remove everything harmful at once, and realized what humiliating consequences awaited him. As a result of the procedure, Namjoon Ryuk began to get rid of harmful chi in the most shameful way, by releasing gases from his body, consciousness from unbearable shame, mentally cursing the demonic bastard Chungguan. After this incident, Chungguan had a serious conversation with the head of IHAK, who was perplexed as to why it was necessary to turn the dragon swordsman into a dragon heart. He honestly explained the situation. Namjoon Ryuk himself insisted on drinking the poison prepared by Tan Yoji and could not cope with it. IHAK, however, thanked Jungguan for his good work, noting his ability to overcome hostility with kindness and praising his patience. The only thing that bothered the head was the completeness of the dragon swordsman's healing. Jungguan assured that although there may be some side effects, they will not cause serious harm. When asked about the nature of these effects, the hero calmly explained that Namjoon Ryuk's intestines may react strangely when trying to collect qi. But this is still better than death from poison. The next morning, Jungguan began training with Seongmu. After grueling classes, the guy could barely stand on his feet, but all of Jungguan's...
Alright, take the next left and go to Albuquerque. Knew I should have took that left turn at Albuquerque.
Suddenly, their activities were interrupted by the owner of the hotel, who announced the arrival of guests. Not knowing who came, Jungguan sent Seongmu to his room to eat after training. Coming out to the guests, he found Peng Suoi, who joyfully greeted the Pearl Dragon, who had not been seen for such a long time. Peng Suoi inquired about Heo-chan's whereabouts, and the hero invited the guest to go inside while he found his teacher. Along with Peng Suoi, his friend Peng Kangun also arrived, who showed a keen interest in the young man about whom he had heard so much from Suoi's brother. He immediately noted Jungguan's good looks, confirming Heo-jung's stories, and assumed that his fighting skills were as good as his appearance, especially given his assistance to Peng Kanghui. It seemed to Peng Suoi that Peng Kangun wanted to personally experience the powers of the Pearl Dragon. The man admitted that although his heart is eager to fight, his mind keeps him from rash actions. Many terrible rumors about Jungguan made him cautious. Realizing this, Peng Suoi gave his older brother wise advice. Under no circumstances should he make Jungguan his enemy, emphasizing the exceptional danger of this man. The man, showing prudence, accepted this advice without objection. At that moment, Heo-jung came down the stairs, joyfully greeting his longtime friend. He inquired about the reason for Peng Suoi's late arrival, because he had expected him much earlier. He, responding to the greeting, explained the delay by the desire to perfect all the details concerning the alliance. He noted with satisfaction that he had done everything possible, and now intends only to watch the development of events and reap the fruits of his labors. The friends spent the entire evening in lively conversation, discussing many important issues, until it was time to say goodbye. After everyone left, Heo-jung decided to have a serious conversation with Yongguan. He announced important news. The internal formation of the Muram Alliance was in its final stages. Tomorrow they had to go to where Chongguan was supposed to meet with representatives of various families and clans. Heo Chong, knowing well the character of his student, expressed the hope that Chongguan would be able to learn something useful from these meetings. The hero himself enthusiastically accepted this opportunity, considering it an excellent chance to absorb the combat techniques of all orthodox schools. The teacher also recalled that the issue of the future head of the alliance still causes heated debate, and advised Zhongguan to ignore any provocations if someone decides to draw his sword. Heo Chong emphasized the special importance of the upcoming election of the leader of the alliance, explaining that this time the chosen one will receive real power, unlike in the past, when this title was largely nominal. It was the lack of a single strong leadership that made it difficult to quickly respond to sudden invasions of the demonic cult. Interested in this topic, Chongguan asked the teacher to tell him more. Heo Chong spoke with a heavy heart about the cruelty of the true heavenly demon, who used an insidious strategy to exterminate the inhabitants of the central plain. The demonic cult did not carry out massive attacks, but rather launched surprise raids at the first opportunity. Even after time, these memories caused Heo Chong pain.
Turn this mission in. I gotta clear my quest log. Get all these done. I gotta get all these shits out so I can focus on grinding gold. Been doing reputation quests. I want to get titles. I gotta look it up. I got it on my retail server, not this not Ascension. WoW custom server.
And a certain witch of pleasure, whom Chongguan considered a fairly kind girl despite her complex character, and found the nickname Witch to be overly harsh. Heo Jong insisted that all three were powerful and ruthless leaders of the elite units of the demonic cult, who left a bloody trail across the central plain. Zhongguan, realizing that these people had rebelled against him, wondered why they chose the path of violence when they could have simply challenged him to a duel if they wanted a fight. He was especially offended by the fact that all their crimes were attributed to him. Noticing his student's emotional reaction, Heo Young,
what did he say?
Was angry at the demonic cult, decided to change the topic. He emphasized the importance of the upcoming election of the head of the alliance, regardless of past events. Zhongguan inquired about their preferences and the identity of the head of the Peng family. According to Heo Chong, the head of the Peng family, who looked like a raccoon, was an exceptionally noble man.
Fuck it. What does Mighty have?
However, Chongguan rightly noted that the combination of nobility and ambition can be very useful for the leader of the alliance. Heo Chong agreed, especially noting that this man always kept his word. It became obvious why the head of the Peng family, promising to send masters and sons to Qinghai to prepare for a possible attack by the demonic cult, inspired such trust. Heo Chong believed that for the sake of the well-being of their clan and the people of Qinghai, it was necessary to support his candidacy in every possible way. Zhongguan also realized that he had to side with the head of the Peng family, especially if he planned to travel around the world, since this person was the most suitable candidate for the position of leader. The next morning, the Kunlun clan and the Pen family went to the Muram Alliance together. Along the way, they met many ordinary people who asked them for help, to pray for sick relatives and perform several rituals. They politely bowed to everyone, explaining that they had arrived for a short time and they did not have time. But they assured that their god appreciated sincerity and would definitely listen to prayers. Pen Suan calmly watched what was happening, realizing that the Kunlun clan members were demonstrating their true selves. Even his friend turned out to be incredible. There was not an iota of vanity or arrogance in him. He decided to pay attention to the Pearl Dragon, as he had heard about his contradictory character. It seemed like he didn't even have the heart of a Taoist, but remembering the words of Pen Kanghua, the guy declared that he was the only true righteous man. The young warrior believed that when Chongguan went out into the world, everyone would remember his name. This angered the man, because it was he who was supposed to glorify his name throughout the continent. Zhongguan noticed how this unknown guy was looking at him, but he understood that he could not do anything about it. Since he was on their side, they couldn't just take him and beat him. In addition, he noticed that the guy's aura was undoubtedly different from others, even from Pengangwa and the other martial artists of the family. This difference was so small that only people like Taoists with excellent instincts could notice it. Yongguan thought that one day he would get to know the insides of this person, just like he had recently with Namjoon Ryok. They finally arrived at the Murim Alliance, where they were greeted by Jegal Mu Hyuk of the Jegal family. He was overjoyed to welcome the great Pen clan and family, so he invited them in. Ihawk, who knew the warrior Jegal well, came out to answer this invitation.
I did not expect to nuke his ass. Okay.
At this time, Chongguan looked around carefully and realized that the building was probably intended for defense. It's no wonder why everything in the alliance was so broad. The time had come to place the guests in their room. People who would arrange for their accommodation appeared and offered to take a walk to explore the Murim Alliance. The hero, walking with all his friends and brothers, understood that they had probably prepared an excellent place to live. But when he arrived, he felt as if he had returned to Kunlun. Even the attendant realized from Yongguan's reaction that the building looked a little old. This made Chongguan incredibly angry. But Chun Wu, of course, could not say anything like that. So, as befits a Taoist, he thanked them for highlighting the roof and walls. A dark-haired guy approached them, inviting the Pearl Dragon to go inside the building, promising that he would definitely change his mind after going there. After this, the man said goodbye to the Taoist and Chun Wu, explaining that he and his team were going to their hut. As the man left, he reflected that the Pearl Dragon clearly looked disappointed, as if his expectations had been crushed, and he was obviously not happy with the housing. Since he knew such worldly desires, he knew that dealing with this person would be quite easy. When Chongguan and Xiongmom went inside, they noticed that the inside, despite the external facade,
Where the fuck is the bottle or whatever the hell I'm supposed to use at?
both he and Xiongmu understood that this was probably all intended, and they were placed here to make them
Wait a
know
minute.
that the house was bad. What really angered Chongguan was that these orthodox sects built houses in their own image. On the outside, they were something vague, but on the inside, it was...
Oh, it's a fucking kill quest. Where's the fell essence?
He heard that Kunlun had arrived, so he decided to come and visit them. He was wondering...
It ain't from the dogs, is it?
and suggested they take a walk since they had already arrived. But the hero did not understand why Yu Jinpun needed this, but the man explained that he considered this excursion his gratitude. Then
Yeah.
they thought that Yu Jinpun had finally gotten things right with Tang Yoja, and Yu Jinpun seemed to be extremely happy that Tang Yoji asked him to bring Zhongguan to him. The guy absolutely did not understand what was good about this, but Yu Jinpun was convinced that since Tang Yoji believed that he could be relied on, it meant that he was a worthy person. But Zhongguan understood that this was a clear mistake. It was also obvious to Xiongmu. However, it didn't matter, since Yu Jinpun suggested that they take a walk while Tang Yoji finished her preparations. They had some free time. Zhongguan explained that there was no place he wanted to visit, to which Yu Jinpun offered to take them to the Tower of Spirit Raising, where every
Die, motherfucker.
faction had to visit.
Rick James, bitch.
From the name, the hero realized that the Tower of Raising the Spirit was designed to elevate the spirit to the skies, and upon hearing this, he immediately realized the need to visit.
There is no way I'm not getting no essence.
Presented with several historical artifacts that
Now I'm fucking diseased for 3 minutes.
3 generations ago.
Oh, whatever.
His robe was soaked with blood spilled while repelling the attack of the demonic cult. Nearby, as Yu Jinpun pointed out, was a sword that belonged to the head of a demonic cult named Bloody Mask Demon.
Blood ass.
The hero was convinced that it really belonged to his cowardly ward, and on the right was that girl's weapon, an old brass knuckles. Looking back on it all, he knew he should have killed those bastards before they went on a rampage, and he wondered why they started acting like this after his death. Moreover, he was interested in the fate of his own weapons from a past life. He understood that many probably fought for the right to possess them. Suddenly, in the middle of his story, Yu Jinpun became distracted, noticing that Zhongguan was noticeably different from the other visitors. As an example, he pointed to a woman who was crying near the exhibits. But the hero did not understand why he should follow her example. Yu Jinpun explained that in the Murim Alliance, it is obvious to everyone how a warrior or any other representative of the Orthodox faction should behave. He advised Zhongguan, although it might seem difficult, to behave the same as those around him. However, the hero honestly admitted that he did not understand the logic of the Orthodox faction, considering it strange, like the exhibition itself. He recognized the importance of honoring those who fought for a good cause, but asked Yu Jinpong if he understood what they really died for. Yu Jinpun believed it was obvious that they sacrificed themselves for the alliance, and claimed that he would have done the same if the enemy was stronger to protect the alliance. But Zhongguan had a different opinion. He did not understand the point of attacking someone you cannot defeat. In his opinion,
like where
uniting with someone or retreating, because life was the most valuable thing, and they had to save it to help the alliance. Otherwise, it would simply collapse. Yu Jinpun honestly admitted that he had never considered this issue from this angle, and such thoughts were unusual for him. Zhongguan understood Yu Jinpun's feelings very well, realizing that everyone might have different thoughts, and invited the man to imagine that someone else might hold the same opinion. Yu Jinpun admitted that the hero gave him really good food for thought, and also explained that he did not want to blame or offend anyone, which Zhongguan already understood perfectly well. Finally, they decided to go to Tang Yuje. When they arrived, the girl greeted them cordially. Zhongguan appeared just in time, when all the preparations were complete. At this moment,
I learned everything.
An unknown guy appeared, who turned out to be Tang Yuji's older brother. He immediately greeted Yu Jinpun and, recognizing the stranger,
Learn that from my mog too. Get rid of this fucking leather I don't need.
Of Sichuan Tang named Tang Wugong. Looking at their greeting, awkward. It was the first time she had seen her older brother so talkative. At this point, Tang Wugong decided to test Zhongguan's knowledge of poisons by asking his general opinion about them. He honestly answered that he both hated and loved them at the same time. Intrigued, Tang Wugong noted that everything is clear with hatred and asked why Zhongguan liked poisons. Zhongguan explained his position. There is no better way to kill or save someone. It all depends on the owner of the poison. Those who do not understand poisons love to talk badly about them, not realizing that they can also serve for good. Tang Wugong couldn't help but agree with this. Zhongguan added that everyone should be poisoned at least once to experience the greatness of the poison, but wasting it on limited people just to prove its effectiveness would be useless. Hearing this, the elder realized that this young pearl dragon, about whom he had already heard, really had the right view of poisons, and his interest in the young man only increased. Finally, when the hero entered the gazebo, many poisons appeared before his eyes. Tang Yuji explained that some of them belonged to her brothers, others were from her own collection, and some they received from students of the Tang family. The hero examined the poisons with genuine interest, mentally assessing their cost, and was about to begin tasting. Suddenly, Tang Wugong spoke up and proudly presented one of his poisons, called Three-Stage Soul Destroyer, his best specimen. However, Tang Yuji quickly stopped her brother, wondering if he really wanted Zhongguan to taste the poisons out of order. Tang Wugong, slightly embarrassed, tried to justify himself to his sister, explaining that he just wanted to present his work of art. After this, Tang Yuji asked her brother to keep quiet and turned to Zhongguan herself, explaining that there were indeed a lot of poisons, and it might be difficult for him to try them all. However, she asked that he try as many as possible if possible. Following her words, Zhongguan began methodically tasting poisons, testing their effects, then neutralizing them in his body, after which he gave his assessment. So some time passed, and he sorted the poisons. On the right, he placed those that, in his opinion, still had room for improvement. Smiling, Tang Wugong noticed that almost all of Tang Yuji's poisons were on this side. On the left, where the good poisons were located, they were almost entirely from Tang Wugong's collection, and only 2 belonged to Tang Yuje, which made the girl noticeably sadder. But the hero recalled that there were 3 good poisons of hers, including thunder poison, which she gave him before. After these words, the girl's mood improved significantly, especially considering that Zhongguan considered thunder poison the best among all those represented in this group. Brother and sister, inspired, praised each other. When Zhongguan was about to leave, he offered to call him when the work on improving the poisons was finished. He intended to take Yu Jinpun with him, but he excitedly asked the hero to leave first, as he wanted to discuss something with Tang Yoja. After that, they were left alone, and Yu Jinpun began to ask the girl about her preferences, while Zhongguan awkwardly walked away. On his way, he met the same old man who asked him to give him some time. The elder was sincerely surprised and dissatisfied when the hero refused him this request. Having caught up with the guy, he introduced himself as the greatest poison master named Tanji Huang, believing that as soon as Zhongguan heard his title, he would immediately change his mind. The hero, looking at the man, knew that if he was truly the greatest poison master, then that meant that he was one of the 10 strongest martial artists in the Orthodox faction. However, no matter how he looked at it, He did not see anything in this man suitable for such a high title. He knew very well that if someone had foolishly decided to take on a false title in the heavenly demon cult, he would have already been beaten to death. Therefore, the hero concluded that the people of the Central Plain were unusually kind, since the man was still walking around freely here. Chung Guang's disdainful look made Tan Ji Huan even feel embarrassed. The guy's expression literally showed that he was looking down on him. But it wasn't that important. He just wanted the guy to listen to him. When Chung Guan refused, it seemed to the man the height of ignorance. He wondered why the elders didn't teach the boy manners, but Zhong Guan explained that even the great elder never made any comments about manners. At that moment, Tan Ji Huan realized that if he was talking about the great elder, then he definitely meant the virtuous sage. That means that the rumors about the pearl dragon. He realized that if this boy had not been under the protection of the virtuous sage, such an ill-mannered young man would have been killed long ago. Tang Ji Huan felt sad that the elder was so casual about a rare title that not everyone could get, and he didn't understand why he had someone like Yung Guan. The hero wondered what this man had against him. But instead of answering, the man decided to ask how the elder was doing.
Strength, agility, stamina, spirit. That's Druid. Well, not on this. It could be anything on this fucking server.
He had never heard of anyone managing to restore the Chi Center, but it was unlikely that Zhong Guan would lie about something concerning his great elder. In that case, Tan Ji Huan mused, if the guy really was an expert in poisons, and his medical abilities were as impressive as he claimed, then perhaps he was literally the perfect...
Die, motherfucker!
Therefore, the old man explained his intentions. He wanted to make Zhong Guan the best poison master in all the land, inviting him to become his student. Yung Guan obviously didn't give any answer and just started walking away, heading towards his house. He wondered why the old man continued to pursue him to the very end, but the man insisted that the young man finally give him a clear answer.
Wait a minute, why am I not...
That he could not agree to his condition, since he was a disciple of Kunlun. But at that moment, I-Hawk and his companions approached, and Tan Ji Huan immediately greeted him respectfully. Having introduced himself, he decided to explain the reason for his visit, but no one liked his desire to become Zhong Guan's mentor. The man tried to clarify the situation, explaining that he was not going to take...
Wait, what is it gonna drop from? That's what I don't know.
According to him, it would be wrong to call him a master and Zhong Guan a student. He only aspired to a relationship like mentor and mentee. I-Hawk hoped that he really...
Okay, Jadar. Why do I feel like I'm not where I'm supposed to be?
Tan Ji Huan continued to insist that such knowledge would be extremely useful for Zhong Guan himself. So he asked permission from I-Hawk, explaining the reasons for his choice of Zhong Guan. As it turned out, Tan Ji Huan understood that to master his knowledge, you had to be a real genius. And he saw that Zhong Guan had all the necessary qualities.
Yeah, it just didn't mark it right.
Reminded the man of himself in his youth, which served as an additional motivating factor.
Give it to me quick, goddammit.
The hero did not understand what he was talking about.
Fuck you.
He had never in his life had such a facial expression as the old man. His disdain seriously angered Tang Ji Huan, as if the boy was literally admitting that he considered the old man's face to be something unworthy. The rest even had to calm the angry man. But he, having escaped the grip of the head of the sect, promised that after expressing his request, he would definitely return for an answer, no matter what. After that, Zhong Guan looked after him with displeasure, not understanding why he again found himself in such a confusing situation. Even I-Hawk did not know what to do, so he decided to listen to all the explanations first. In the end, Zhong Guan revealed that he came to Poison Phoenix to try poisons, and swore that he did not overdo it. I-Hawk was only happy that Zhong Guan managed to remove them harmlessly, but the guy admitted that he actually left some poison in his body to...
Listen, you want to skip this ad. I would too, but what if I told you there's a skip ad...
Strengthen his immunity. I-Hawk expressed hope that Zhong Guan really understood what he was doing, and decided to listen to his thoughts on the proposal of the greatest poison master, since it is not every day that you get the opportunity to learn from someone of this level. However, the hero calmly said that one teacher in the person of Heo Chan was enough for him. After these words, the man joyfully...
Legionnaires.
Declaring that he also only needed Zhong Guan, but then remembered that he also had Xun Mu and 2 other children in his care, which made the hero feel incredibly awkward. I-Hawk also approved of Chung Guan's choice. but warned that he must be completely firm in his decision, knowing the persistence of the greatest poison master. He will probably return. The hero himself understood this and even suggested setting up an ambush to deal with this persistent man. However, Ihawk explained that before leaving for the Murim Alliance, he would tell the head of the Tan family about everything. And since Tan Ji Huan respected his son's opinion, there would be no need to worry. However, he asked that if the Master of Poison still began to insist, then get rid of him, but strictly ordered Zhang Guan not to get into a fight. Although the guy thought that a battle with the greatest master would be an excellent opportunity to improve his skills, Ihawk, on the contrary, said that Zhang Guan would have to listen to his grumbling for a long time in case of disobedience. The next morning, Tanji Huan appeared with his retinue, and again began to persistently ask the hero to become his ward. It seemed to Chung Guan that it was incredibly impudent that Tanji Huan showed up even knowing that the elders were absent. After these words, everyone witnessed how the greatest poison master flew into a rage, demanding an answer from Zhang Guan. When there was no answer again, the man decided that the guy first needed to be taught a lesson in manners. At this point, Chung Wu tried to calm the revered master and asked him to continue using words rather than fists. The hero understood that he really wanted to fight this man, but he remembered Heo Chan's instructions not to get into fights.
It's been 2 years since that disaster struck. The city's population is now sparse. In an effort to escape the monsters, you found a grounded nuclear submarine, which is undoubtedly...
He would have to listen to the endless grumbling of both the head and Heo Chan in case of disobedience. Now he had no choice but to use his secret method. He hit himself in the chest, after which he violently coughed up blood, announcing that he had been poisoned. Everyone looked at the Pearl Dragon in shock, and thought that the greatest poison master had used a sneak attack on the Kunlun disciple. Around this time, in the office, the head of Sichuan Tang, Tang Yunchong, was apologizing to Ihawk for his father. Ihawk calmly explained that they did not come here to apologize. Tang Yunchong himself understood this very well, but considered it his duty to apologize for his father's actions. Looking at this man, Ihawk realized that such actions of his father had already become talk of the town, and now his son constantly had to apologize for it. In the end, he decided to say goodbye since it was time for them to leave, and asked Tang Yunchong if he was going to go to the Murim Alliance meeting.
Skip this. I'm about to walk all the way in.
Talking with his father, but suddenly they heard screams. Someone brought urgent news and wanted to see the elders. Although he was forbidden to enter, since it was impossible to break into the chapel, Ihawk already recognized the voice of one of his students. Soon it was reported that there was a problem between the poison master and one of the sex disciples. The problem was that an attack had been carried out, and there was no time for detailed explanations, so they asked to release the envoy to the elders as soon as possible. Ihawk and Heo-chan were already scared, realizing that
I used to grind fell cloth up here so often.
when they went out to find out the details,
Back in fucking vanilla.
the greatest poison master had used
Oh,
a sneak attack
die.
against one of the sex disciples. At this moment, Ihawk and Heo-chan breathed a sigh of relief, but realized that they really should hurry up. They decided to find out how the victim was feeling. He explained that when the guy was carried to his room, when he left to look for the elders, he only saw how he used chi regeneration, so he could not judge his current condition. The whereabouts of the greatest poison master were also unknown to him. He suspected that the man was confronting other students. Ihawk realized that the situation they did not have time to talk, so he immediately said had saved the master of poisons from shame, but instead of gratitude, he decided to humiliate him. Ihawk wondered why there was such talk that completely contradicted the words of his student, and saved them to discard all the secret.
Happy birthday, Marty. Oh, no, you don't. Let me get this. Oh, thanks. You're too kind. I've heard that.
Unlimited 2% cash back. The Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card.
The whereabouts of the greatest poison master were also unknown.
I think I'm gonna tell you out of here and go. Fuck. No, I'm gonna just run back out.
Did not have time to talk, so he immediately set off. Tang Yunchong also decided to go with him. He again apologized for his father and decided to follow them to discuss everything. While they were walking, they heard rumors that a disciple of Kunlun had saved the master of poisons from shame, but instead of gratitude, he decided to humiliate him. Ihawk wondered why there was such talk that completely contradicted the words of his student, but he understood that people were probably misinformed. As they approached, Tanji Huan confronted Chunwu and ordered him to get out of the way, but he refused. The man decided that bloodshed was the only way to get them to listen to him. But at this moment, Tang Yunchong intervened, who did not allow his father to completely ruin the reputation of their clan. When Tan Yunchong and Tanji Huan were arguing with each other, Ihawk and Heojung went to the victim's room, but saw that he was completely healthy. Soon, Chung Guan himself revealed that he had activated the poison remaining in his body in order to frame the master of poison. Although he explained that he did not want to set him up directly, the only thing he said was that he was poisoned, never once claiming that it was Tan Chun attacking him. Ihawk realized that the witnesses must have misinterpreted the situation. Soon, Chunwu approached and reported that the greatest poison master had escaped from the head of the Tang family and disappeared. So Ihawk was wondering what to do in this situation, because the conversation between them would inevitably take place again. It became obvious to everyone that the master would continue to prove his innocence, but few would believe him, although his son, the head of the clan, might believe his father, despite the fact that he was ready to attack him as soon as he saw him. Chun Wu was the first to propose a solution, and Ihawk understood that he was clearly in favor of apologizing to the Sichuan Tang family to relieve tension in society, because Chung Guan had indeed provoked misunderstanding. Ihawk was right, fully understanding Chun Wu's desire, but in the end he scolded the guy, explaining that he was too straightforward in his thoughts, and sometimes you need to act wiser. Chong Guan himself did not understand why they were so worried, because it seemed to him that this matter was much simpler, and he decided to tell everyone what they should do. There were two options. The first was to do nothing, since only they knew the truth. In other words, go with the flow, avoiding conflicts. But if the first method was to follow virtue, then the second was to introduce it into the mind. Ihawk realized that the boy was offering revenge on the greatest poison master. Unexpectedly, at that moment, an accompanying person came and said that the head of the Sichuan Tang family had arrived, wanting to meet with Taoist Chong Guan, and the boy realized that the time had come. Soon, Tan Yunchong said that his father told him the essence of the matter and claimed that it was Chong Guan who framed him. He trusted his father, because even though his father acted like a madman at times, he had never lied to him before.
Being myself is the boldest thing I can do. My own self.
And he had no reason not to trust him. At that moment, the hero realized that he had miscalculated, and all his deep thoughts and plans turned out to be empty. He decided to ask the man the purpose of his visit, because it did not seem that he had come for the sake of an argument. Tong Yunjung really just wanted to talk to Young Guan, believing that the guy had done something amazing that he was grateful for. The hero was perplexed as to how he could deserve his gratitude. That Chung Guan helped him throw out his emotions. The hero was surprised, believing that Tang Yunjung would come angry due to his family's shaky reputation. However, he explained that for decades, his father had been spoiling his reputation, and he had to raise and maintain it. But this would not happen again. The hero felt awkward, realizing how hard it was for this man, although he believed that a much more difficult fate awaited Young Guan. Besides, he had heard that the guy was helping his children perfect poisons, and he wondered if he would continue to do this. Zhang Guan honestly admitted, that if they asked for his help, he would definitely not refuse. Tang Yunzhong then admitted that since his family was a poison business, Young Guan's superior skills might cause them problems. The hero liked the man's straightforwardness, but wondered how Tang Yunzhong would react if he struck back. The guy himself suggested getting rid of him in such a case, considering this the simplest solution. Tang Yunchong understood how much this would simplify the task, but after weighing all the pros and cons, he decided that the benefits outweighed the possible harm, so he invited the guy to become allies. When it was time to leave, Yungguan still didn't understand the reason for the private conversation, but Tan Yunjung explained that he wanted to thank the boy and find out what kind of person he was. However, the hero understood that such a short conversation was unlikely to satisfy his curiosity. This was confirmed by Tan Yuncheng himself, admitting that he still did not fully understand this guy. That evening, Tan Jihuan approached his son to see if he was convinced that Zhongguan had really seen him. Tan Yuncheng admitted that this boy had earned his father's attention for a reason. Tan Jihuan believed that this child was truly unique, which is why he needed him so much, and understood that Tan Yuncheng would probably also want to establish a connection with him. However, Tan Yuncheng warned that if problems arise again because of his father, he will not let him do it. Tan Jihuan couldn't believe that his son would actually follow him, and wondered why he was looking at him as if he wanted to beat him up. The son explained displeasedly that if after a simple beating he did not stop, then he would act differently. After that, he entered his room, no longer reacting to his father's words. Tan Jihuan was very unhappy with his stupid son who started looking down on him just because he got old. Deciding to drink to calm down, he sat in the gazebo, drinking alcohol, and suddenly began to cough, not understanding since when the drink began to taste so bitter. At that moment, he noticed his longtime friends, who just laughed at how pathetic he looked, wondering why, being so old, he couldn't just die. One of the friends asked his friend not to be so rude, especially since Tan Jihuan was already upset. An angry Tan Jihuan yelled at his friends, saying that they themselves weren't looking any better, and although none of them were getting any younger, unlike him, they had become even more annoying. One of the men, clearly poorly dressed, laughed, explaining that he was a whole year younger and was not an old man. This seriously angered Tang Jihuan. He even suggested they fight, ready to fight two at once. The attacker chuckled and decided to ask about the rumors he had heard about Tan Jihuan's altercation with someone, wondering how the man still had the strength to fight him. In the end, Tang Jihuan realized that there was no point in arguing, so they sat down to have a drink and discuss the news of his alleged attack on a Kunlun disciple. His friends understood that this was slander, and although the news spread like wildfire, the men only laughed.
Today's actually a really exciting day because we got to unfold people
At how flawlessly the Pearl Dragon was able to frame Tan Jihuan. The old master knew that this guy was not only flawless, but in the whole world it was impossible to find anyone who was like him. The friends immediately realized that Tan Jihuan was speaking as if he wanted to take the boy away from Kunlun. They wondered why the old man was asserting something so impossible, because before there had been no such barriers for him, but he knew that they themselves would understand everything if they met this guy. In his entire life, he had never met a person who would act so boldly on his own, and he even wondered why he had not yet been expelled from such a strict sect like Kunlun. Friends suggested that the guy was probably madly loyal to his clan, which created a problem. It was true. Tan Jihuan understood that he could not take this boy by force. He could not even imagine what anger this would cause him. One of the men even suggested that Tan Jihuan must give up, because there were already many talented children in his clan, but he explained that he had already considered this option. His son would not agree to accept it. His grandchildren were simply not ready yet. This worried him because he didn't know how long he had left and he just couldn't continue to sit idly by. He honestly admitted that he even thought about stealing him or winning him over to his side. But even despite this, Zhongguan did not want to have anything to do with him. Watching the man pour alcohol out of grief, the friends realized that this arrogant old man really wanted to get them, and they became interested in seeing how big he was. Finally, the time came to say goodbye, and they advised the old man to rest. They themselves decided to go find accommodation for the night. In the morning, the hero woke up with the only thought that he wanted to eat meat, so he began to get dressed to go empty at the Murim Alliance restaurant. When he went outside, he heard an argument between the same two men who could not find a compromise regarding housing. One wanted to stay on the street, and the other was clearly not used to such conditions. The hero, looking at the first man, wondered how he could easily do it. But one look at this old man, he lost all his appetite. The second old man, although he looked much more decent, spoke like an inveterate runner, and his speeches also discouraged the hero from wanting to eat. Both old men, noticing the Pearl Dragon, immediately surrounded him with questions, after which they introduced themselves. The first is Women Jewel, Shandong, also known as the Reverend Master of the Spear. The second is Yong Hui, the great leader of the poor sect, also known as the Reverend Master of Begging. After listening to them, the hero asked what brought these men to him.
All right, rinse and repeat. I got 6 more of those to get, and I can drop that off, get up out this area, and I don't have to come back until I finish off Azera. I gotta go to Azera and Dark Portal.
And noted that he had heard a lot about respect for this man. He then decided to demonstrate to the hero the full power of the title of 10 Reverends. Yunhui-gu showed 3 techniques: Dog Awakening Technique, and the last, greatest, Technique of Sending Dogs to Heaven. After looking at these techniques, the hero realized that compared to other martial arts schools that meanly stab in the back, this was the most honest technique. He noticed that Yunhui-gu was not only using his strength, but its leg movements were also fast and precise. Having praised his art, the hero suggested that the man make some adjustments, namely, take a lower fighting position, remembering one of the beggars who once guided him on the path of truth. Chung Quan asked Yunhui-gu if it seemed to him that the so-called dog beating was originally intended to catch rodents, but then it was changed to make it more attractive to future generations, causing the movements to become more sweeping. That is why Chongguan suggested that Yunhui-gu try to imagine a dog in the place of the enemy, and not a person. These instructions took him many years ago, when his teacher, teaching the young Yunhui-gu, noticed that he was straining his shoulders too much. However, then Yunhui-gu boldly declared that this teacher was too behind the times, and continued to practice the technique.
Shit.
At his own discretion. The angry teacher slapped his student, ordered him to watch his language, and reminded him that he was just a beggar and should not forget about it. He ordered to pay attention to how Yunhui-gu performed the dog-beating technique. He tensed his shoulders too much, trying to look impressive. Yunhui-gu tried to justify himself by saying that this skill was taught only to sect leaders, and he had to feel all its power. But the teacher harshly reminded that the guy was just a beggar, and had to perform the technique accordingly. You are not a hero who fights evil, the teacher said. So perform the technique as if you really want to hit the dog. He believed that by setting such a simple goal, the student would be able to apply the skill without unnecessary theatricality or pity. Then Yunhui-gu did not attach much importance to these words. But now, thanks to Chongguan's remark, he finally understood that by making yourself smaller, taking a lower position, you can get closer to the enemy. Previously, a beggar like him would be impressive, completely forgetting such a simple principle.
Welcome to the state of survival. The safest place to be. Get normal houses, fancy.
Ye Manchul, watching how this young man enlightened Yunhui-gu, noticed how he began to look at his art differently. It became obvious that this guy was not just amazing. He was the greatest of warriors. So Yue Manjul also wanted to get it. He asked Zhongguan if he liked the beggar's fighting school, to which he answered in the affirmative, finding it very entertaining. However, Yue Manchul immediately advised the guy not to get close to Yunhui-gu, explaining that he did not have the best character, which is why he was not particularly respected even in the beggar sect itself. He said that Yunhui-gu constantly insisted that his loneliness was a manifestation of a free spirit, but this was an obvious lie. Hearing this slander, Yunhui-gu angrily retorted that Yue Manchul himself was kicked out even by his own wives, considering him a crazy man who took pleasure in beating his own grandchildren under the pretext of training, for which everyone hated him. Yue Manjul objected, claiming that his wives only suggested that he rest, and he simply followed their advice.
Remember what it's like to be a kid, watching cartoons, eating cereal on a Saturday morning? That's why we made Magic Spoon. Tastes just like...
So that's not... Wow. Is it I'm just assuming it's fucking bugged. He said, manhwa recap, bro, just like me. Yeah. I be getting it some days, bro. Sorry, I didn't even notice you. It didn't even give me my notification that I have messages coming through. I apologize about that. But what's up with you? What's up with you, Zank?
He sharply ordered the men to shut up, as they were too noisy, and if they wanted to fight, then let them go somewhere else. He understood that if this argument continued, he would definitely not be able to eat meat in peace. Yue Manchul and Yunhui-gu...
But you actually hear it. That's crazy.
They could not understand how some guy dared to talk to them like that, deciding to teach him a lesson and telepathically communicating with each other. They realized that now was not the time to fight among themselves, and offered to quench their thirst for blood at the expense of the insolent man.
You shouldn't even be able to hear it.
They did not agree on who should attack first. At that moment,
See?
the rest of the Taoists came.
There we go.
Having felt the.
You still hear it, or is it silent now?
Modern Warships, a free online action game where you can control a huge.
The thirst for battle since the morning. Chongguan realized with annoyance that now he would definitely not be able to eat meat in peace. Soon a whole crowd gathered, attracted by the ominous energy emanating from the elders. It became clear to everyone that a fight was brewing, and they wanted to see it. Both elders felt extremely uncomfortable being the center of everyone's attention. Zhongguan, already well aware that they would not do anything to each other, and would not fight, decided to return to his room, explaining to Ai that things were able to go further than empty threats. The rest of those gathered were also aware that despite loud statements of their intention to kill each other, the old men simply continued to stand there, perhaps because of a reputation that they did not want to destroy. Suddenly, the hero called for everyone to disperse, explaining that neither Yun Huigu nor Yue Manchul would do anything further. At that moment, having heard every word clearly, both men realized that they would be disgraced if they acted, so they were left with no other choice. As a result, Yun Huigu demonstrated the dog-beating technique, and Yue Manchul demonstrated the 100-wave technique. While everyone was watching what was happening, Yongguan decided to take Xiong Mu to training. The guy wondered why they couldn't stay and watch such a battle, but the hero explained that this was unlikely to help Xiong Mu achieve enlightenment, especially since he was just a beginner. He explained, without the level of an elder, no benefit could be gained from this battle, so he suggested concentrating on training. First of all, Chongguan asked Xiong Mu to show his sword skills. He noticed that the guy was really getting better at his techniques, but it was still obvious that compared to the other students, Xiong Mu was still very weak. He honestly told him that he needed to train for a long time, because his movements lacked precision and grace. However, he asked the guy not to be upset, because it was within his power to change it. Zhongguan explained that Xiong Mu had no self-confidence. He asked his mentor's opinion every time after he showed a martial art, and did it with a clear expression in his face.
Yo, 47.
If you train, you must do it more confidently, and then you will begin to master the lessons. Seong Mu continued to claim that he was not capable of this, but the hero reminded him that all he needed was to believe in himself more. Even if someone points out his mistakes, he must accept it with the attitude that he will become better. After which,
God damn it.
the person who corrected him. In the end, Seong Mu believed his words, especially Zhongguan, that he was much more useful for his training. The hero asked Seong Mu to come up with a battle cry, and asked him to say something. Seong Mu is the greatest disciple in the whole world. The guy was very embarrassed, especially considering that it was Zhongguan who was the greatest student in the whole world. Seong Mu became even more uncomfortable with the fact that he did not know anyone who was better suited to this title when it came to martial arts. But he remembered telling his father that he wanted to follow in Zhongguan's footsteps, and that he didn't trust the level he was striving for. He was unlikely to be able to advance, so he shouted what Zhongguan asked for. After this, the mentor asked him to proclaim himself the first and only Golden Sword Master. He came up with this nickname, taking into account Seong Mu's talents for trading, deciding to successfully combine two things. Finally, the guy shouted this phrase, and honestly admitted that his feelings had become much better. He felt relieved, and Chongguan asked him to continue to keep this attitude in his head. But when the hero looked back, he saw that behind them had gathered many Taoists, local residents, and even Yue Manchul and Yun Huigu, who stopped the battle to laugh at the title of Song Mu. The guy felt incredibly awkward, which is why he ran away in a second. Chongguan realized that this young man was clearly one of those who still
Yeah, that's why I don't have it, because was that two? I got two of them, yeah. That's Sunken Temple too. I'm gonna have to do Sunken Temple shit. Alright.
Although he believed that there was nothing more effective than practice. Therefore, He decided to come up with
Alright.
a training plan not only for his younger brother, but for all Taoists. In addition, he would need
Let's
an
see.
elixir, which he decided to ask the Tang family for. As a result, he shouted and asked Yu Manchul and Yun Huigu to finish their fight while everyone else continued to look at them.
Alter. I need to go to Aberdeen.
Forgot that they were fighting when they heard the charismatic phrase, Golden Sword Master. During this time, Tang Jihuan was indignant upon learning that Master Beggar and Master Spear were fighting right in front of Kunlun's doors, believing that they had gone mad with envy. He even cut the table. But the son pointed out to his father that the table was the property of the Murim Alliance, and he had to pay for the damage from his own pocket. Despite this, Tang Jihuan's anger did not subside at all. He understood that damn beggar and the cunning Yue Manzhou wanted to take away his supposed student and began to fight for him. The son calmly explained, Tang Jihuan's student, but he believed that he still had the right to Jun Guan. Given that he was the first to notice his talent, the old man decided to leave in order to see the young man at least for a minute. But Tan Yunchong forbade this and asked his father to hide for a while. Even Tan Jihuan's promise that he wouldn't talk to Ji Guan didn't help. As a result, having locked up his father, Tang Yunchong went to meet with the Pearl Dragon, realizing that the identity of this young man was becoming more and more problematic, even more than the formation of the Murim Alliance itself. He decided that he better get to know this mysterious guy better. When he arrived, he saw a huge crowd gathered. He wondered if all these people had gathered just to see the Kunlun sect members. At some point in the conversations, it seemed to him that the Taoists had left this place. He was even glad that he didn't bring his father with him, since he was already... But suddenly, looking beyond the walls of the Kunlun shelter, he felt some terrifying, ominous energy comparable to murderous force. Tang Yunchong immediately determined that this force was coming from the direction of the tournament arena, and hurried there to understand what was happening. A little earlier, Zhongguan had gathered everyone in the tournament arena to announce that from that day on, their training would be different than usual. Now they had to fight one-on-one with a person of about the same level, and Zhongguan asked them to prepare as if they wanted to kill each other. No one knew. The Taoists did not understand how they should act with the intent to kill. The hero awkwardly explained that he did not mean a real murder, and was surprised how the Taoists could think such a thing. He merely suggested that they practice when faced with actual killing intent, believing that such practice of releasing power control would benefit everyone. IHawk realized that this actually made sense. They should be ready for real battles. Even Heo Chong advocated the need for such training. When it all started, the hero realized that the result, as expected, was unsatisfactory. The Taoists were simply pointlessly swinging their swords, so he decided to intervene by rushing into the battlefield and attacking the Heo Chick man first. He immediately thought that Chongguan wanted to kill his uncle. After the man fell to the ground, the hero fought against his teacher, explaining the reasons for his actions by saying that they were participants in a merciless battle. Having dealt with Heo Chong, he saw how Heo Chick finally managed to get to his feet, wanting to teach the hero a good lesson. Then the guy realized that he could begin to increase the complexity of the training. Immediately after this, he was consumed by a huge destructive force, and he explained that he now intended to fight seriously, but asked the Taoists not to worry. He would adjust his strength to their level so that they would fight on equal terms. Looking at Zhongguan with his mouth open, Tang Yunzhong knew that apparently this was the true power of the Pearl Dragon. He couldn't control so much murderous energy during a simple training session. As a result, the only conclusion that the head of the Sichuan Tang clan came to was that this guy was much more dangerous than he imagined. After some time, the training was completely over. The beaten Taoists asked Chengguan for permission to undergo acupuncture and receive some medicine for pain throughout the body. In just a second, the hero moved to Tang Yunjiang to see if he could ask the head of the family for a small favor. He asked for some really effective medicine to help his brothers and uncles. Tan Yunchong was amazed at how amazing of a person Chongguan was. He felt great after releasing so much energy, which was under his complete control, although the guy was not even 20 years old. In the end, he agreed to give him medicine, but in return he asked the hero to do him some favor. Before voicing it, he suggested that all further discussions should be held at his family estate. As soon as they arrived, Tang Yun Chong gave the order to cure all the Taoists, using as many medicines as they could.
Oh, that's
He and
pretty.
Chongguan came to the room where Tan Ji Huan was sitting and drinking at that time. Chongguan was clearly unhappy with this appearance and asked the head of the family to explain himself.
Being myself is the boldest thing I can do. My own self.
But Tan Yun Chong invited him to sit down.
Yo, real talk. YSL got a new line out. It's called Myself.
Was that Zhongguan agreed to be mentored by his father and pass on his wisdom. The hero and Tan Ji Huan were shocked. Chongguan decided to find out the possible motives, realizing that it was unlikely that Tan Yun Chong was simply trying to please his father with this proposal. He wanted to know what other reasons were driving the head of the family. Tan Yun Chong explained that there was nothing special about this. He only needed to inform Jian Hu that the hero had adopted all the knowledge of his father. It immediately became obvious to Zhongguan that the man was simply trying to make up an excuse to build a relationship with him. In addition, Tang Yun Chong explained that his father had made many enemies for himself, which caused a lot of trouble, so he wanted to make a strong ally, not a powerful enemy. As a result, the hero agreed, not even against learning a new art. The only thing that irritated him was Tan Ji Huan. Huan's constant grumbling, but the man immediately declared that he was the most reserved person. When the hero explained that lies and shortcomings irritate him even more, Tan Ji Huan promised to control himself. The hero himself suggested that it would be quite entertaining to comprehend his wisdom, and Tan Ji Huan swore that the hero would like it. But Chongguan understood that he needed to set his own conditions.
Let's see if I can get that tailoring plan to drop. If it doesn't drop in like 20 minutes, I spent an hour and a half. Look, I spent an hour and a half in the same spot trying to get this thing. I'm gonna try to get it this time. But let me find out it only drops if you're a tailor, which doesn't sound right in old world. Real.
Tang Yun Chong agreed, but explained that in return they should be given permission to collect medicinal poisonous plants that grow in the Kunlun Mountains. The hero could not resolve this issue on his own, so he promised to ask the elders for permission. At this point, they completed the negotiations.
I can't go up the side of the...
also needed to ask permission to continue his studies from his father. Soon, Chongguan met with Ihak, who, as he said earlier, believed that such a chance would come once in a lifetime. He considered Chongguan too great and understood that their sect alone was not enough for him, so he asked the boy to continue to acquire new skills and enrich himself with knowledge. Heo-chan himself was proud that his student had received such a chance, but asked that he always remember his first and only master. The hero was just wondering why he decided to express this using telepathy. But as it turned out, not far from them was Tan Ji Huan, who had been watching them all this time. Zhongguan realized that the old man, as always, was in his repertoire. As a result, from that moment on, the greatest poison master began to train the Pearl Dragon. Rumors spread instantly. Moreover, both Yue Manchul and Yang Huigu quickly learned about this and could not believe that such a thing had happened. They even came to Tang Ji Huan to find out if it was really true, because he looked too happy, as if he was already going to die after getting such a valuable student. Suddenly, in the middle of the conversation, the hero called the eldest head of the Tang family. Tan Ji Huan couldn't admit that Zhongguan still didn't call him master, so he came up with an excuse and decided to leave. In the end, he invited his old acquaintances to leave.
And y'all are about to get dead now. Ah! It dropped the first time? What? I am super salty. I spent so much time.
They decided to ruin Tan Ji Huan's idea and somehow annoy him. As a result, both men came to their followers, declaring that they should be the ones destined to pass on their knowledge to the Pearl Dragon. Their followers objected, explaining that although some of their knowledge was accumulated by their own experience, the main element of their training was the sect, so they could not safely teach them.
Why is this minion walker so... Hold on. That's why. Alright, robes, arcana. That is fucking amazing. I can go send that now. Let's see. So that's gonna be done. Sunken temple. I gotta go to Jadar, to no, Azra, Azara,
This art to an
and Dark Porter.
Gu and Yuemanchul understood that they would be dissuaded.
Where's this at?
Yuemanchul was especially furious.
It's in 1K.
He offered to transfer his techniques, but all the followers refused. He wondered how they had the right to approach him, since he had found himself a new student. As a result, a guy volunteered from the beggar sect, who, realizing that Gu would not give up so easily, decided to personally meet with the Pearl Dragon. Also, a disciple who was already familiar with the Pearl Dragon decided to go from the Yue Manju. At this time, Chongguan continued to practice weapon throwing with his teacher. He did not understand how long he should continue to repeat the same actions, believing that he had already learned enough. Tanji Huan did not understand what the hero meant, because he expected that the guy would use up absolutely all the prepared reserves to master throwing. But Chongguan explained that since yesterday, he had seen all kinds of shells, and had already learned everything. Tanji Huan couldn't argue.
The Chrome extension everyone will be using in 2025. I feel like I just found a Google cheat code. This Chrome extension lets you...
To be honest, Zhongguan threw projectiles as if he were an expert who had dedicated his entire life to it. In the end, he decided to ask the guy what kind of projectiles he would like to master, but the hero calmly explained that any projectile that came to hand would suit him. It only takes a few throws for him to learn how to use them. The only important criterion was that the projectiles should not take up much space. After this, the hero asked Tanji Huan to begin training him. But before starting the training, the old man explained that Zhongguan had to learn one important thing. Although the family was said to specialize in poisons and projectiles, there was also a third element called the art of dexterity. The hero immediately realized that the point is that you need to have high speed if you need to escape after using poison or a projectile. Although Tanji Huan thought this understanding of things was quite crude, Zhongguan was right. In order to use poison or throwing weapons, a warrior must be able to freely control his movements and judge the distance to the enemy. He had heard a lot about Chongguan
Let's get to Zara.
Poisons, and had already concluded that he was good at this art.
The hippogriff
The
is a
second is
noble
that
beast,
Chongguan's clan.
proud of his swift
Alright.
train and can quickly take
The
their
sex
rider
approach
a
was
great
different,
distance.
But Tanji Huan assumed that Chongguan did not need to be taught this. Moreover, he perfectly grasped the characteristics and techniques of using throwing weapons, so he fulfilled all three necessary conditions. Now, the man was ready to convey to the guy his idea of enlightenment. It consisted of three principles: heaven, earth, and man. He believed that their method consisted of three elements, and in order to achieve perfection, there must be harmony between them. He arranged the elements in reverse order and comprehended their true meaning. If a person subjugates heaven and earth, then no enemy will be afraid of him. This logic was very understandable, but the hero clearly did not want to think that the whole essence of enlightenment was the need to run around with poisons and throw projectiles. He was about to leave, not wanting to waste time.
Alright, Gabby from Vegas, let's go ahead and back your concentrate order. So our brownie batter went back in.
But Tanji Huan explained that the secret was that a person becomes the center, but only if a person directs poison into the ground, and at the same time throws weapons into the sky, being a harmony between these elements. After listening to the elder, Chongguan realized that his story really had a deep meaning. Taking the needles and raising a handful of earth, he decided to demonstrate his understanding of this art. He threw the earth, scattering it so that it blocked visibility, and threw projectiles into the sky, thereby preventing the targeted enemy from avoiding his attack. Tanji Huan at first didn't understand why the guy attacked so suddenly, but finally saw that Zhongguan skillfully controlled the projectiles and the terrain using his inner strength. He used it to change the terrain while throwing projectiles to control the sky. It was a perfect demonstration of what he wanted to convey to Yongguan. The old man considered this an impressive success and decided to test the guy to see how far he could advance in this art. He decided to check what would happen if the heavens were excluded from this circle. After this, Zhongguan began to use poisonous forces, continuing to attack using only the ground. But the man, with the help of his internal energy, also removed the earth from this equation. And in the end, only man remained. At this moment, Tanji Huan came to a deep realization. Man himself embodies the unity of heaven and earth, being both the comprehender and the comprehended. However, suddenly Chongguan interrupted the training master, noticing that his mentor was trying to use poisonous techniques against him. The young warrior was not going to pointlessly risk his health. Tan Jihuan, realizing his mistake, sincerely apologized and expressed gratitude to the student, whose actions awakened a new surge of strength in him. The experienced mentor decided to share an important revelation. Born into a family where poisons and throwing weapons were an integral part of life, he had long believed that his existence was limited only to these arts. However, this was a delusion. First of all, he remained immune. Over time, the understanding.
行政上进的。
Understanding came that a person is able to survive even without relying on the forces of heaven and earth. A weapon is an extension of your hand, the old master wisely noted. Its effectiveness stems precisely from the fact that we humans have learned to use it as part of ourselves. But we should not become a slave to our weapons. Chongguan listened attentively, beginning to understand that Tan Jihuan was not just equating poison with poison. The mentor was interested in hearing the opinion of a person who questioned the unconditional effectiveness of traditional martial arts. Thanking him for his feeling Chongguan prepared to return home. The old master understood that the young man would need much more time to truly comprehend even a small part of his teaching. But this was not due to the lack of ability of the student. When Chongguan headed towards the exit, the man hurried after him, offering to stay for lunch, for which all preparations had already been made. However, the hero, knowing full well that only vegetarian...
All right, let's get up on this.
food awaited him in his mentor's house, politely refused and said goodbye. While wandering the busy streets, Zhongguan was thinking about where to eat meat dishes outside of Marin. Thoughts came to him about the need to change his clothes and submit an official application if he decided to immediately leave the Alliance. He was irritated by the thought of having to go through all this formality just for a simple piece of meat. An unexpected meeting with Yu Jinpun and his companion, student Yun Huigu, interrupted his thoughts. After greeting them, Zhongguan inquired about the reason for the meeting. It turned out that Yu Jinpun brought his mentor, who wanted to meet him personally. The man introduced himself as the leader of a beggar sect and, without wasting any time, asked Chongguan directly if he would like to study under the guidance of his teacher. Instantly realizing that we were talking about the notorious Yun Huigu, whose reputation was very controversial, Chongguan resolutely refused. The man did not show surprise, apparently expecting such a reaction, but inquired about the reason for refusing to study from one of the...
All right, let's see. And we got number 2.
And reverence. Chongguan
Oh, that's such a...
that he simply did not see the need for this. At this moment, the interlocutor was convinced that the rumors about the young warrior's self-confidence were not exaggerated. Suddenly, Chongguan asked if there was a good restaurant nearby, preferably with private rooms for private dining. He was recommended a place called Unique Taste. Without hesitation, he invited Yu Jinpun and his master beggar to join him for lunch. Secretly, Zhongguan planned to use this meeting as an opportunity to enjoy meat dishes, but his companions sincerely took it as a sign of kindness. Upon arrival at the restaurant, Chongguan had to convince his guests that he was serious about paying for dinner, giving his word, sealed by the principles of military honor. After this assurance, the beggar immediately began to order all kinds of meat dishes and alcoholic drinks. Yu Jinpun, taking advantage of the moment, began to ask his younger brother about training with the Reverend Master Tang Jihuan. When Chongguan calmly announced that he had already completed his training, the beggar could not hide his disbelief. It seemed unthinkable to him to master all the skills in just 2 days. He was disappointed that Chongguan turned out to be, in his opinion, a braggart, and wondered why the master undertook to train such an arrogant young man. However, Yu Jinpun, turning to his mentor, came to Chongguan's defense, explaining that despite his sometimes arrogant behavior, the younger brother never lied, and his words should have been taken seriously. After this intercession, Yu Jinpun admitted to Zhongguan that he believed his words, although they sounded incredible, and expressed a desire to learn more about the skill he had learned. But Zhongguan had more important things on his mind. He hinted that he would like to share with Eugene Poon and his mentor an important secret that should not be revealed under any circumstances, and inquired about their ability to keep secrets. After this cryptic statement, they began to eat. Chung Quan began to eat the meat dishes with obvious pleasure.
Light is fading.
While the mentor pondered with growing curiosity about the nature of the secret that the young warrior kept, more hesitant in sudden silence after such an intriguing beginning. With a relaxed smile, Zhongguan revealed his great secret. He just enjoyed meat and alcoholic drinks. Presented as the greatest secret turned out to be so ordinary that it caused sincere laughter among those present. Eugene Poon, still chuckling, solemnly swore to keep this secret. But Chongguan, maintaining a serious expression on his face, admitted that although he trusted Eugene Poon unconditionally, he did not have the slightest trust in the head of the sect. This frank statement seriously hurt the head of the beggar sect. Eugene Poon hastened to smooth things over, explaining to his mentor that although Zhongguan's words might seem offensive, the young warrior clearly had no intention of causing personal insult. The man, upon reflection, admitted that if Zhongguan really wanted to insult him, he would probably have expressed himself much more harshly. However, something else really puzzled him.
Alright, Dark Portal, and so we'll have to hit Dark Portal, I think,
He
next.
could not understand how such a person ended up in the respected Kunlun clan. Suddenly, remembering his own mentor, the sect leader
Everything's
realized
on the Eastern
he
Kingdoms.
understood that he was here precisely because he could not convince his stubborn teacher, who was famous for the steadfastness of his decisions.
Yeah.
An unexpected thought came to him. Instead of trying to convince Chung Guan, he could ask the young man himself to help resolve the situation with his sect brothers. The man reasoned that if Chung Guan declared his ability to master their teachings in just a few days, this would certainly amaze his mentor so much that he would give up the thought of teaching such an arrogant student. Chung Guan, having a keen intuition, noticed that his interlocutor was up to something, but decided not to attach any importance to it, realizing that if the man began to get on his nerves, the consequences could be very unpleasant. After finishing dinner in a relatively...
Hey husbands, Valentine's Day is coming, and if you found the love of your life, get her this.
I
atmosphere,
will not be getting her jack.
where he found Seong-mu still
Best
training.
deals in all the
Young man was
Won't find
developing
any better.
endurance by
Now, what
holding
can I help
heavy
you with?
loads. An excited Seong-mu said that he was looking for Zhongguan because he had an important guest. Proceeding to the meeting place, Zhongguan unexpectedly saw Heo-chon, accompanied by his longtime comrade, the leader of the clan from the Eastern Mountains.
Tailoring, blacksmithing. So I gotta send the tailoring over.
Legends, so he respectfully greeted the Pearl Dragon. The man explained the reason for his visit. His mentor constantly talked about Chongguan, and he himself wanted to get to know the young man. He announced his passionate desire to be Chongguan as his disciple. He initially came expecting to be refused. However, now his intentions had changed. He sincerely wanted the young warrior to accept his mentor's offer. He explained that this was a special request, since there was no other way to influence the decision of his adamant teacher. The best solution, in his opinion, would be to agree to train. Then pass on the acquired knowledge to the rest of the clan's followers. However, young Guan directly stated his lack of interest in this proposal. Understanding the young man's position, the man decided to change the terms of the deal. He offered to support the Peng family in the upcoming alliance leadership election. Moreover, in the event of an agreement, they promised to send martial artists to Qinghai and allocate significant forces to this endeavor.
Alright, I gotta go to the Dark Portal now.
Promised to invest in developing trade.
Send that to
By transferring
the
their
Hope.
product to the Pack Trading Association, they could significantly increase their wealth, and the people of Qinghai
whatever that
would
goes to
have
Hope.
access to a wider range of goods. Zhongguan admitted that the proposals sounded tempting, but shrewdly noted that their sect was probably already doing something similar. Embarrassed that the young man had figured out his plan and mistakes, when Chung Guan hinted at a desire to get something for himself,
Crispy. Spelled with a
the
H.
philosopher realized that it was really worth
a protein treat. Ain't gonna work. Well, protein bars aren't very fun. Let's give it a try. Introducing a protein bar that tastes like your favorite childhood treat.
conducting serious negotiations with this unusual young man. Grinning with satisfaction, the man explained that he did not yet know Zhongguan's specific desires, but he would have enough time to consider his requirements during training with his mentor. After some consideration, Zhongguan gave his consent. The next day, rumors spread throughout the city that the Pearl Dragon was two reverend masters at once, the head of the beggars and the master of the spear. The public was amazed that he began this training immediately after completing his studies with the master of poisons. This news caused such a resonance that they even had to postpone the ceremonial reception of the influential Namjun and Hebei Peng families in the Murim alliance. The head of the Namjun family, trying to understand the situation, was perplexed why the election of the leader of the alliance was postponed, and what role the representatives of the Kunlun clan played in all this. One of the aides rushed to explain the situation.
Dead went past since I'm here.
Zhongguan's actions should have subsided quickly. But in order to avoid problems with the election of the leader of the alliance, they asked all factions to temporarily postpone the elections. However, the head of the Namjun family dissatisfiedly noted that the members of the Murim alliance were unlikely to give a definite answer, making such a delay pointless. Namjun Ryok, seeing that his father was beginning to lose his composure, tried to calm him down, but this only increased the anger of the head of the family. He had already been informed of recent events, including how his son was now being called Stink Dragon, instead of his previous honorific title of Sword Dragon. The man was furious. He had specially freed himself from all his business to come, and now he had absolutely no time to deal with the family and the difficulties that had arisen. The situation was complicated by the fact that everyone knew about the close friendship between the Kunlun clan and the Peng family, which could significantly influence the choice of the remaining members of the alliance. Since it was the Namjun family that was supposed to be in control of the situation, they could not allow Kunlun to strengthen his influence. To counter this, the head of the Namjun family ordered a grand banquet, wanting to demonstrate the power and greatness of his family. At the same time, the head of the Peng family arrived and immediately summoned Peng Suoi to discuss the recent events. He was at a loss, not knowing whether to be happy or worried about the news circulating. Peng Suoi reported encouraging news. His friend He Qing confirmed that another powerful family had decided to support the Peng family. The Namjun family still had their trump cards, and Peng Suoi suggested organizing a meeting to discuss the latest news. Realizing that there was very little time left, the men agreed on the need for a personal meeting. The head of the Peng family, having heard a lot about the Pearl Dragon, realized the significance of this figure. Peng Suoi emphasized the importance of establishing friendly relations with this extraordinary young man. Turning to the young man sitting opposite, the head inquired about his...
We about to jump into some water? Nah.
impressions of the meeting with Chongguan. The young man replied...
Did somebody already just ride through here?
Rude and capricious. There was no sense of malice in him. This observation interested the head of the Hebei Peng clan, strengthening his determination to personally meet the unusual young man. Meanwhile, Chongguan completed his training with Yue Manchul, receiving instructions to use the spear technique exactly in accordance with the knowledge acquired if he ever had to resort.
Don't hit the bottom.
Yue Manchul was still reeling from the realization that he had taught such an incredibly
The back door to Karazhan, ain't it?
mastered his art in a matter of days.
I think so. Yeah, this the back door. You go this way if you want to go to the opposite side of Karazhan.
Dispute was quickly resolved when Zhongquan reminded Yun Huigu that he had never agreed to study with him. After this, Tang Jihuan and Yue Manzhu reproached the man who dared to offer training without the consent of the student himself. Yun Huigu, defending himself, forcing the boy into training, which he actually did not like. Observing this skirmish, Chongguan wisely decided not to interfere, realizing the absurdity of the situation. Returning home, he found Ai-hak and his retinue preparing to leave. It turned out that they were heading to a banquet hosted by Namjoon's family. When Zhongguan asked why he wasn't warned, Ai-hak sheepishly explained that he didn't want to disturb him during his training. Zhongguan calmly reported that he had already mastered the art of Wei Manchu's spear. And again, only 2 days were enough for him to master all the techniques of the Reverend Master. Ai-hak had no choice but to invite the young man to join them. Yongguan was delighted at this opportunity, knowing about the high status of the Namjoon family and counting on delicious treats. Upon arrival, they were greeted by the impressive sight of sumptuously laid tables. Despite the suddenness of the decision to hold the banquet, the Namjoon family clearly spared no effort in preparation, maintaining the impeccable quality of the organization. One of the cooks bowed respectfully.
I could death run it.
Lead the guests from the Kunlun sect to their seats. However, when they reached their table, Yongguan was perplexed to find that it was completely stocked with exclusively vegetarian dishes. He was overcome with sadness at the sight of the neighboring tables, laden with meat dishes and alcohol. He could not understand such obvious injustice on the part of the Namjoon family. At that moment, the Master of Ceremonies appeared, announcing the arrival of the banquet organizer.
Oops, Scholomance. Close
The man
that.
who appeared, looking around at the assembled
Ain't nobody doing no kerosene right now.
ideal place for greeting, from where everyone present
There we
was
go.
perfectly visible.
Alright, so Essence is done. I gotta do Sunken Temple and
Expression on the young man's face. Zhongguan looked so dissatisfied and angry that even the experienced head of the clan shuddered from this piercing gaze. However, the man quickly reminded himself of the difference in their status and discarded the disturbing thoughts. Addressing the crowd, the head of the Namjoon family began his carefully prepared speech.
1,000 needles.
About the colossal efforts put into organizing the banquet, expressing the hope that the treats were enjoyed by all those present. He especially noted the presence in the hall of many renowned masters who had shed their sweat and blood.
How close is the flight plane, really?
Despite his venerable age, he expressed his deepest respect to each of them, bowing deeply. With special solemnity, he praised the great warriors of Jianhu, who always came to the rescue in the most difficult times. This banquet, he said, was intended to
I don't think it drops off of these dudes.
Chongguan.
I'm gonna kill a few and see real quick. I can't remember.
Tactic of trying to gain support through eloquence and flattery. However, he had to admit that the head of the Namjoon family managed this quite well. At this moment, Heo Jung diverted Zhongguan's attention by pointing to one of the men present. It was the leader of the family. Heo Jung asked Zhongguan's opinion. The young man honestly admitted that the man gave it a
You're listening to State of Survival Radio. All survivors who can hear this, please come to our shelter right away. We've built a safe place here with clean water, lots of weapons, and strong defenses against the zombies. Our doors are open to all survivors. We hope you'll join us to fight the zombie waves that are coming. We need your strength, so if you hear this,
Okay.
get in touch with us quick. Keep surviving.
the impression of a man who had taken the lives of many people. And even for him, the head of the Ping family seemed an extremely
That's not.
dangerous person.
How is that not even open?
The alliance was of great importance for the prestige of the clans, which is why the leaders of the
There is no door.
families became involved in this political game. Chongguan understood that they were ready to use any means to achieve victory. Heo Chong noted that their methods would be significantly different since they were completely different. After this conversation, Heo Jung suggested that Yongguan start eating. Seeing the young man's dissatisfaction with vegetarian dishes and understanding his disappointment, he sympathized. Chongguan was already planning to go to some ordinary restaurant for the banquet to finally eat normal food. But unexpectedly, the head of the Ping family came to their table, wanting to greet Kunlun elder Ai-hak. After exchanging formal greetings and ceremonial bows, the man walked towards the pearl dragon. He warmly shook the young man's hand, noting that he had heard a lot about him from Peng Kanwa, and was sincerely glad to meet him. The head of the family was especially interested in why Yongguan was still worried about not visiting their clan. He mentioned that Hong Kong was looking forward to meeting him. Zhongguan was embarrassed, remembering that he never gave King Kongguan a death course. However, the head of the family was determined and asked the young man to visit their residence for a short time for an important conversation. Before
There
he
we go.
finished
Go
his
sleep.
sentence,
What?
Tang Ji Huan appeared. See 3 of the 10 reverend masters at once. After inquiring about their health and returning the greeting, Tang Ji Huan
How's him look?
asked if the leader of the Peng family was going to take his student as an assistant.
Oh, that's cute.
The man hastened to explain that the reason for the invitation was simple. The Pearl Dragon knew his youngest son, and he just wanted to talk with the young man. Watching this conversation, Zhongguan realized that all the Reverend Masters had gathered in the hall with their respective factions. Wanting to leave this place, he began to look for a suitable excuse to leave. His attention was drawn to the common warriors who had also arrived in the Murim Alliance, and Heo Zhong noticed that although they were considered part of the alliance, they were not invited to the banquet, as only the most powerful factions received invitations. And the hero decisively declared that she wanted to help the warriors who were not taking care of their young. At first, Heo Zhong assumed that Zhongguan was motivated by the invitations, but doubts forced him to refuse them to the famous face, trying to understand his true motives. The man even began to pray to heaven for a sign whether he could trust this young man. Strictly forbidding him to get involved in any fights. Around this time, young Nikolai was amazed that he was already daydreaming about the opportunity to make acquaintances among young martial artists. However, Chung Guan, instead of encouraging these ambitions, dragged Xiong Mu along with him, causing him to cry tears of disappointment. After all his hopes for future connections in the world of martial arts were destroyed. Having brought the upset Xiong Mu to a group of ordinary warriors who were not invited to the banquet, seeing their hungry looks, invited everyone to dinner at a restaurant at his expense. The warriors looked at each other in disbelief, not believing that the Pearl Dragon himself was ready to spend money on treats for ordinary fighters like them. But Chongguan did not give them time to think, practically forcing them to agree. And the whole company went in search of a suitable establishment. When they arrived at a restaurant already familiar to Yongguan, it turned out that all the tables were occupied. They were about to leave. But then one of the knights, who was from the local residents, suggested an alternative. Another restaurant, perhaps not so sophisticated, but with inexpensive, tasty dishes and good service. It seemed to
Garrett Family Crest? Hold on.
Attracting clients, but they had no choice, and they agreed to his offer. However, upon arriving at the place, Chongguan was so disappointed with what he saw that he could barely restrain the desire to beat the recommender. The restaurant did not live up to the description they had heard. Turning to the young man, Chongguan directly asked if he received a commission for attracting new visitors. The guy excitedly waved his hands, assuring him of the sincerity of his recommendations and begging him to trust his choice. At that moment, a woman, a local cook, came out of the kitchen and, noticing the young man, smiled warmly, recognizing her son, who had brought new guests. Suddenly, a complete picture formed in Yongguan's head. The guy brought them here for a reason. Being the son of the owner, he probably ate here regularly without spending money. However, the young man hastened to explain that it was not about free food. He sincerely considered his mother's culinary skills to be unsurpassed. Looking around the room, the guy proudly spoke about the success of the establishment. It wasn't busy at the moment as most of the locals were working, but at lunchtime the restaurant was so crowded that finding an empty seat was a real challenge. Zhongguan, deciding that he had nothing to lose, approached the woman and asked her to cook everything that was in her culinary arsenal. He himself turned around and invited his companions to settle down in any places they liked. Having settled down at the table, Chongguan plunged into memories of his mentors and elders who remained in Kunlun, although he wanted to believe that everything was fine with them and that they continued to train hard. Then his thoughts turned to the heavenly demonic cult, which, although it quieted down, did not last long, especially considering the coming changes.
Yeah, let's switch this one.
To become the leader of the alliance. But he knew that when Master Marima sent warriors to Qinghai province, he would finally have the opportunity to travel around the world without hindrance. A warrior unexpectedly approached and proudly presented the establishment's signature dish, vegetable salad, wishing Chongguan a bon appetit. However, the hero, clearly dissatisfied with the appearance of greenery, asked to bring something else. The waiter began to explain that they had prepared a special dish especially for the Pearl Dragon, but Zhongguan interrupted him, insistently demanding meat dishes. This requirement confused the warrior, who knew that the guest belonged to the Taoist tradition. He turned his attention to Seong Mu, guessing that he must be an outer disciple judging by his usual clothes. Chung Guan, taking advantage of the moment, asked to bring more food, jokingly noting his brother's insatiable appetite. The waiter...
That's a
grinning,
badass
promised
looking
to set
fucking
the table
axe.
so that it would be bursting with food. When the attendant left, Seong Mu protested indignantly, emphasizing that he was not an external disciple and certainly did not eat like a pig. Zhongguan calmly noticed that the young man had indeed not yet received his uniform, and asked why the comparison with a pig hurt him so much. After all, it all depends on perception. Seong Mu did not remain in debt, sarcastically suggesting that Zhongguan perceived vegetables as meat, which only caused him to smile skeptically. As the tables filled with food, the rest of the warriors could not contain their joy at the opportunity. They warmly thanked their friend, thanks to whom they got the chance to have such a nice dinner. He modestly pointed to the Pearl Dragon as the true benefactor who should be thanked. Turning to Chongguan, the warriors watched
I got 3 more to go.
the incredible speed with which he absorbed food. His hands moved so quickly that it was impossible to follow them. The admiring warriors concluded that Zhongguan was obviously not only a master of the sword, but also a virtuoso in handling chopsticks. They even joked that such abilities could not be acquired from birth. That must be why he trains even during meals. Some tried to imitate his technique by trying to eat just as quickly. Only some understood such a rush. This understanding prepared. Having calmed down, the warriors began to discuss the reason for the Guam Mountains and the southern slope, trying to understand the reasons for the sudden statement of the head of the Namjoon family. Listening to their conversation, Seongmu realized that it seemed that every sect and family...
Oh, you was looking for me, buddy.
Zhongguan, sensing an opportunity to gain valuable information, approached the table with a bottle of alcohol and invited the soldiers to drink with him. Flattered by such attention from the Pearl Dragon, the warriors readily agreed. Sitting down at their table, Chongguan explained that he had spent his entire life in Qinghai, and now, finding himself on the Central Plains, he was faced with many things he did not understand. He asked to talk about the structure of local life, especially interested in the upcoming elections of the head of the alliance, the clans associated with them, public opinion, and the preferences of various families. The warriors were noticeably alarmed by such direct questions about the election of the head, fearing the consequences of the dissemination of such information. However, Chongguan, with a winning smile, assured them that he was not expecting disinterested help. If they shared information with him, he would reveal some interesting information to them in return. The warrior, watching Zhongguan, realized that the guy was much smarter than the 9 dragons and the 4 phoenixes. In addition, he was a disciple of the King for the opportunity to learn something was incredible. Inspired to walk in to begin to share their information. The Shu clan from Taiwan supported the Namjoon family, and the Qingxi sect, although they declared neutrality, in fact also stood on the side of the Namjoon family. In gratitude for the valuable information, Zhongguan offered to teach them basic techniques and skills that they could use immediately.
Why is netherweave cloth dropping off these dudes? What?
One of the warriors
Since when?
His mother was surprised that her son woke up so early. He too was puzzled to see his mother on her feet at such an hour, and asked her to get more rest. The woman admitted that she was fine, but she was worried that her son could not sleep all night. The guy smiled shyly and explained that they had a chance to learn from the Pearl Dragon himself. After saying goodbye to his mother, he heard her request to be careful and not overexert himself. At that moment, he was overwhelmed by a feeling of shame. After all, it was his mother who should not overexert himself. He worked all day long, barely finding time to rest, while he continued to pursue his elusive dream of becoming a martial artist instead of a chance to learn from such a strong warrior. Hugging his mother, he asked her to be patient with him. He decided for himself. If today's training with Chongguan doesn't go well, he will return to his mother and give up his dream of becoming a warrior. Finally, Chongguan came out to the crowd. He apologized for not being able to talk to everyone properly yesterday. He noted that everyone present was too constrained due to their status as ordinary warriors. Their background and lack of eminent family created serious obstacles for them. Zhongguan wanted to destroy this wall with the help of their courage and fortitude. He paid special attention to his younger brother, recalling their recent conversation about confidence. He explained that they would
My druid has damn near the same staff. It's a badass looking staff. Just walking.
The day before the training festival, Chongguan approached Yujin Poon with a request to teach his students something sophisticated and give them the basics with recommendations.
Oh, I made bread off of that.
Poon didn't mind helping, but was worried about his master's reaction. When Chungguan offered to treat him to food like last time, he finally agreed. Zhongguan also turned to the poison
Underground water sources. I was supposed to go in this other one. Fucking A.
to work on the poisons that the hero had tested earlier. But when he offered to give them advice on poisons, realizing that this would speed up their work, the Tang brother and sister were convinced. By chance, young Yunjin was nearby, who did not understand why teach a crowd of ordinary people. Zhongguan promised to explain everything to her if she joined and offered to participate. As a result, young Yunjin also decided to take part in Zhongguan's endeavor. Returning to the present moment, the head of the Peng family introduced the head trainer and other instructors who would train the newcomers. The ordinary warriors couldn't believe their eyes. As well as the they understood that under such leadership they could really achieve a lot. Zhongguan started the first training session by releasing the first day of students. Since it was only the first day, training should have lasted no more. The crowd was visibly disappointed when they heard about the first studies. Many did not understand why it was necessary to organize such a large-scale training festival for the sake of studying the simplest element. Zhongguan calmly explained that no one forces those who do not want to follow their lessons. As a result, many still decided to stay and repeat the instructions, although they did not understand the point in studying such basic elements. Zhongguan watched the trainees with serious disappointment, not understanding who taught them to take basic training so lightly. Noticing one of the students who was performing the exercise correctly, he pointed to him and explained to the others that this is exactly what a real horse stance should look like. He ordered everyone to repeat after this guy. As soon as the students began to perform the technique correctly, they immediately realized that they had greatly underestimated the importance of the basic elements. Zhongguan explained to the audience that many of them were well aware of the importance of the basics, but rarely practiced them.
What?
He wondered if it was because the basic
What?
seemed boring or difficult.
Wait a minute. Did he just fucking...
The fact was that the others also neglected the basics, preferring to immediately move on to complex techniques, leaving the beginners behind. That is why Zhongguan decided that the best option would be to practice the basic elements together. This way, no one would be afraid of appearing less skilled. He also invited Peng Suoi and his assistants, and explained that the disciples would train in duels with the disciples of the Peng family, since the Peng family was the organizer of the training festival. They tried to make it as beneficial as possible for the young disciples. The followers fought the young martial artists with their full strength, never missing an opportunity to give useful advice. Thanks to this, participants were able to see their mistakes and understand how to correct them. Soon the head of the Namjoon family found out about this. Noticing the frightened expression on his assistant's face, he decided to ask him about what was happening. Suspecting that it had something to do with the Peng family's training festival, the assistant excitedly reported that even those who had initially opposed the festival had now decided to participate. Angered by this news, the head of the Namjoon family went outside to see for himself. Arriving at the place, he saw a huge crowd of people entering the camp. He heard the training camp students confiding to each other that although they hadn't hesitated to participate, they were now glad they had decided to participate. They finally realized their weaknesses and knew that they would regret it.
I was hoping I don't die.
Soon be closed. The students hurried to the training. The chief became interested in why the gates were being closed. The guard explained that only those who really wanted to participate could participate. They had noticed that this was not the great ones. 2 training sessions.
That's it. That was weak.
Interested in what was happening, the head of the Namjoon family wanted to watch the training and demanded to open the gate. Having received a refusal, he became furious, not believing that anyone dared to contradict him. However, holding back his anger due to the large number of witnesses, he pretended that he understood the unity of the rules for everyone, apologized for his behavior, and left with his assistant. Meanwhile, the start of the second training was announced. Tang Yujin and her brother Tang Yugong acted as instructors. They began attacking the students with poisonous arrows. Zhongguan hastened to reassure the frightened students, explaining that the poison used was not lethal, although it could cause temporary paralysis and nausea. Young masters had to teach students how to act in such situations and provide first aid. Zhongguan advised Tang to listen carefully to what he witnessed and rid of unpleasant feelings. At the last stage of training, 2 of the 9 dragons and 4 phoenixes were in. Before the start, Zhongguan asked the participants an important question. What would they do if their weapons broke during battle? Everyone understood that it would be absurd to die from confusion in such a situation. Zhongguan explained the need for hand-to-hand combat skills and the ability to use weapon debris.
Fuck it, let's get drunk.
The importance of mastering close combat techniques. During training, Zhongguan explained to the students that they would not have a second chance in a real battle, so each exercise should be taken seriously. Before leaving, they had to make sure that they had fully mastered the techniques taught. When the training came to an end, the head of the Peng family appeared and prepared a pleasant surprise for the participants: medicinal herbs and special tea. After drinking the healing decoction, everyone was amazed at the care of the Peng family, which even provided for such detail. The leader gave an inspiring speech to those present, explaining that not everyone is destined to become a great martial artist, but the harder they work, the more they can achieve. He emphasized that the training festival is designed to lay a solid foundation for their future journey as a warrior and make this path easier. His sincere belief that they would all become stronger for the benefit of the whole world deeply touched the young warriors. At the end of the first day of the festival, enthusiastic cries of grateful participants were heard throughout the city, and no one even noticed that Zhongguan actually didn't teach them anything special. Several more days passed in the same spirit. Finally, the assistant reported the disturbing news to the head of the Namjoon family. Every day, the number of festival participants was growing rapidly, and the forces supporting the Peng family, the Tang family, the Poor Sect, and the Yui clan also decided to join the training. Realizing the seriousness of the situation,
What's that for?
the head of the Namjoon family realized that he could no longer remain on the sidelines and must act decisively without limiting himself in methods. He couldn't let the Peng family win this political race. At night, Heojong came to Yongguan for a serious conversation. Noticing the sleeping Xiongmu, he suggested going outside. The teacher's heavy sigh immediately made it clear to Zhongguan that a difficult conversation was ahead.
I need an extraction.
Heojong broke the big news. Namjoon's family was already heading towards them. Although there was still time before the election of the leader of the alliance, they insisted on holding the vote within a week. Zhongguan understood that the head of the Peng family probably objected to such a rush. However, Namjoon raised the issue of Mount Hua and the Southern Clan, claiming that the unorthodox demonic alliance was taking advantage of the situation, rapidly driving the orthodox faction out of trade. The hero immediately realized that this was the work of Hu Weijin, and realized how serious it was. Mount Hua and the Southern Clan should have been furious at such actions. Heo Chong added that other factions also expressed concern about the developments. They were worried about the possibility of a sudden attack by an unorthodox demonic alliance on their trading enterprises. Chongguan noted to himself how lucky they were not to have any trading business. Heo Jung agreed, but warned that the decision to hold the leader election within a week had already been made, and advised Yongguan to seriously think about it after the training festival was over. Left alone, Yongguan admitted that rushing the election was a smart tactic. He would have done the same if he were the head of the Namjoon family. Now he was only interested in how events would develop during these 7 days. Suddenly, a night walk under the moon awakened him with a strong desire to drink, especially considering that last time at the restaurant he never managed to do it.
Trying to run up the stairs while I'm drunk is awesome.
Restaurants. Jumping across the rooftops, he suddenly noticed the head of the family, Namjoon. He didn't even bother to put on a mask, as if he was absolutely sure of his impunity. Zhongguan's attention was drawn to his assistants carrying vessels with strange contents. Intrigued, he decided to follow them. It turned out that Chief Namjoon was on his way to see the head of the Shinchen sect, prepared to take for a big guest, having inquired about the reason for such a visit. He heard an apology for the concern, and requested for support in the election of the leader. The sect elder instantly realized that he could take advantage of the situation, even though they had already decided to support the Namjoon family. He, as an experienced leader, decided to clarify how his sect would benefit. In response, Chief Namjoon ordered his assistants to bring in the mysterious vessels. He explained that these were specially prepared anti-hunger pills. The elder took it as a joke, but had Namjoon remained serious. He described them as a special type of pill that engaged in
Die, motherfuckers.
He invited the elder to personally evaluate their effectiveness. The elder guessed that Chief Namjoon must have added rare elixirs and valuable ingredients to the tablets. With a satisfied smile, he promised to always support the Namjoon family. Considering the matter resolved, he volunteered to escort his dear guest, especially considering that he would soon become the great leader of the Murim Alliance. However, when the elder, looking forward to studying the miracle pills, returned to the vessel, he found it empty. Fury gripped him. How dare Head Namjoon laugh at him so cruelly? But the truth was that Yunguan had already stolen the pills. After tasting them, he determined the composition. Ginseng, wild herbs, many rare elixirs. Deciding that such pills would definitely come in handy, he, carefully watching the head move, followed to empty the settlements. In the morning, the unsuspecting Xiongnu discovered that Zhao Wan had been busy with sickness since early. He explained that he was preparing a medicinal herbal decoction and asked for help to fan the fire. Xiongnu began to complain about
Wolf Runner's shoes, okay.
but as soon as Zhongguan offered to share medicinal herbs, he immediately got to work. After preparing the decoction, Chongguan began to concentrate the tablets using his inner strength, giving them the desired shape. When everything was ready, the curious Xiongmu inquired about the name of the tablets. Without coming up with a name, Chongguan decided to test their effect on his younger brother. When Xiongmu was already chewing the pill, Chongguan casually warned that the first thing the medicine would do was clear his stomach, and soon it would signal unambiguous urge to go into it. The effect was so powerful that Xiongnu could barely move. Zhongguan had to help him get to the toilet. Having dragged the guy inside, he heard the characteristic sounds of true liberation, causing a feeling of accomplishment. Impressed by the effect, Chongguan decided to call his creation True Heavenly Energy Tablets. After keeping some of the tablets for himself and setting aside a few for the remaining disciples, he discovered that there were only 8 left. Having gone to the training camp, he selected 4 warriors and gave each one a pill, advising them to take them in the morning on an empty stomach, preferably closer to the toilet. The warriors wondered why the Pearl Dragon was sharing such a valuable medicine with them, but Zhongguan calmly explained that he considered it a good investment. All 4 bowed deeply, vowing never to forget his kindness. Zhongguan actually strengthened their loyalty through a combination of martial arts and miracle pills, turning them into his loyal informants in the Murim Alliance. He gave the remaining 2 tablets to Tang Wugong and Tang Yei, who also recognized the composition as ginseng and wild herbs. Young Yunjin also received 1 tablet. Everyone was shocked when asked by the girl about the origin of the medicine, Chongguan stated that he created it himself. Although everyone knew about his mastery of poisons, it was not easy to believe that he was capable of creating his own medicinal pills. Tan Aogun, Tan Yoji, and Young Yunjin sincerely thanked Zhongguan, promising not to remain in debt. Chongguan himself reflected on how successful this investment in useful people turned out to be. He handed the last tablet to Yu Jinpei, and the beggar was so stunned by the Pearl Dragon's generosity that he was speechless for a while. A few days later, a meeting was called to discuss the organizational issues of each faction and the general principles of holding elections.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna have to get to that fucking underground well on the other side. That's what it is. It's that far underneath fucking ground.
Interlocutor's reaction. The elder, barely restraining his anger, made it clear to Head Namjoon that his hunger relief pills were completely useless. He was going to bring them back and pretend their conversation never happened. Head Namjoon couldn't believe that such valuable pills could not work, and tried to find out the details. But the elder only asked him to stop disgracing himself, realizing that there was some serious misunderstanding. Namjoon tried to clarify the stage. However, the elder refused to discuss further, directly stating that his sect would not support the Namjoon family. The head was furious that the elder left the game so easily after all the proposals. But he only made the situation worse by calling the pills a pile of garbage and demanding that they be taken. Those present immediately sensed the tense atmosphere. Head Namjoon, realizing that he could not afford to publicly show anger, tried to calm down and figure out what was happening. Meanwhile, at the